your money, your taxes, your truck, and your road to success in the trucking industry. This is Trucking Business and Beyond, the show that puts the money where it belongs, back in your pocket.
Good morning, you beautiful bunch of fuckers, and welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford. It is Monday, July 1st. We are here live. It's time for a free-for-all. My co-host, Brent Hutto, should be joining me sometime soon. I know he's got something going on this morning, but he should be in here with us soon. I have a whole list of stuff I want to talk about today. A lot of stuff going on, but I think I want to wait for Brent to come, and we'll get to all of that. I already have a call, so I will get to that call and we'll get started. Go ahead and line up your calls. We're here for the next 3 hours or until we run out of questions. It's up to you. 855-950-3835. is the number to join us, or you can hit that call now button on your app. We're checking some audio right now. Looks like everything's working. I do want to mention Friday. You know, I've jokingly blamed our technical issues on just about everybody. The Russians, the North Koreans, the Chinese, the sun, space weather, all kinds of things. I have no idea if our problems on Friday were related to the system or not. We did identify that it wasn't in our system. It is still our phone system, which is what we're working to replace. So we did some testing on Friday. We found some bugs. We're working on those. We're getting closer all of the time. But the issue of space weather isn't really a joke. There is a lot going on with that right now. We just had a really weird anomaly happen, and it was on Friday. We get solar flares all the time. One of the problems with this topic is there's a lot of different terms, and I'm not even sure I get them all right. I'm sure that I sometimes use some of these terms wrong. We watch the activity on the sun itself, and I'll just say the sun sends out bursts of energy. We have solar flares. We have mass ejections. There's all kinds of terms, but basically what we're talking about is energy coming off of the sun, and it happens all the time. But the Earth is such a tiny little spot in space that those blasts don't affect us often. But they can. These things hit Earth all the time, too. The problem now is it's really not that the sun is getting that much more active. There's a little bit of activity. It goes up and down. The problem we're seeing now, and this is what happened on Friday, is that the Earth's magnetic poles, the North and South Pole, are moving. And they're moving a lot. I've talked about this, 27 miles a year since 2020. This has happened in the past, like 6,000 years ago. It has a huge impact on the Earth. And there's no real danger to humans directly. One of the dangers we are seeing are animals that migrate using those magnetic poles. We had giant sunfish washing up on the shores here in Oregon. They should be in the southern hemisphere. They're lost. Because it's like if your GPS malfunctioned and you still followed its directions because it's always worked in the past, and you end up in a completely different place than you thought you were going to. That's really how this works for these migrating animals. They have an internal GPS, but it is now no longer accurate because the poles are moving. What happened on Friday was we had a very minor solar storm hit the Earth. It wasn't that powerful. It was a glancing blow. It should not have been even an incident. We wouldn't even mention it. That kind of stuff happens all the time. The problem is the reacting or how the earth reacted, the cause and effect was way out of balance. The cause was really minor. The effect was huge. We ended up with a class 8 solar storm. Those can wreak havoc on a lot of things. And it's not that we just had a class 8, it's we had a class 8 and there's no reason. That is a pretty clear indication that the pole's moving. It's affecting the protection they give us from these kinds of things. Again, humans are not in any direct danger. What is in danger, though, are power grids and electronics. And that's really what we're worried about as far as humans go. These kind of things can mess with electronics. They big enough, they can take down entire power grids. The issue now is we don't know what is big enough now because we're losing the protection. So it's kind of like a new game. The solar guy that I follow on this, the solar weather guy, he's been predicting this for like 10 years. And it looks like there's a lot of evidence that it's actually happening. So we'll keep an eye on that. I am going to get to the calls. So like I said, I've got a ton of topics here I want to talk about, but I'm going to wait for Brent. Let's get started in Pennsylvania today. John, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning. What can I help you with today?
59 years old, company driver, been driving since 96. Got laid off from Central Freight Line, so I sold everything I had except for my truck and went over the road to save some money. Anyway, 59 years old, would you recommend buying my own truck, becoming an owner-operator this late in life?
I don't see any problem with the late in life part. That to me really doesn't matter. And here's why. If you're going to do this, you should have a solid enough plan that you succeed at it. So then what would be the problem starting late in life? Now, are you single, married?
Single.
Okay. So nobody really, other than yourself, nobody depends on your income, right?
No, I got a mailing address. That's it. You know, after I got laid off, I just went over the road, just sold everything I had, like I was saying. And
you know, one of the things to think about, one of the things to think about in this business, and you know, it's pretty unique. You've already lowered your cost of living really, really low. Like technically, the only money you really have to have is just to eat, right? I mean,
yep. And my truck.
Wait, what? A personal vehicle?
Yeah. I'm thinking about getting rid of that.
I was going to say you could easily get rid of that with today's. You know, you're on the road most of the time anyway, so you're certainly not using a vehicle. So you're paying for a vehicle and insurance, and vehicles depreciate, and you know, kind of. And it's easy to get a ride no matter where you are. Right. So today with Uber and Lyft and Dash, you can have food delivered, you can have groceries delivered, you can have yourself delivered anywhere you want. You just pick up your phone and hit an app. So if we look at it from that point of view, nobody depends on your income, and all you really need to make is enough money to eat. How could you fail, really?
Yeah.
Now, I'm still going to do this part. I was going to say, my opinion on when to get started in business is when you're ready, not when the economy is ready, because that can always change. And most people make the mistake of getting into the business at the top when the economy's really hot, the industry's really hot, rates are good. We just watched that happen. Everybody flooded into the market, and now they're all being eliminated because they had no business plan. They just knew with those rates, anybody could make money. I mean, we could put a monkey in the truck and they could make money when rates were that high. So that's when everybody got in. Now those people are failing. If I had to pick a better time to start, I do like starting at the bottom. If you can survive the bottom when you start, then your risk of going out of business the next time the economy tanks is much, much lower. We've watched this pattern over and over and over. People who get in at the top end up getting out at the bottom. People who get in at the bottom usually survive. It really improves your odds. But I say that the most important factor is, are you ready to be in business? Now, a lot of times I am dealing with people that have a wife, young kids, house payments. A lot of people depend on a certain amount of income coming in. We have to have a rock solid business plan if we're going to do that. And that's what I help people with. You, on the other hand,
that's why I want to.
Yeah, I could tell you.
Why I want to join your course.
Perfect. And that's what I was going to say.
I want to start.
Let me just say this. You don't have to do any of that stuff. You should, but you don't have to. I mean, some people, I would be pounding them. If you try this and you don't read a couple business books or take a course or learn something, you're going to fail. I can't say that to you.
Oh, yeah.
You're not going to fail at this. It would be almost impossible for you to fail. But if you're going to work this hard and take this much risk, wouldn't you rather maximize the amount of money you make?
Yep.
Yeah. And that's what you can do if you're in the course and the group coaching and all that. I'll help you with all of this. But the good news is you really can't fail at this.
Yeah, I want to start off from scratch from your course. I mean, from spreadsheets, what I need, how much insurance is going to cost. I want to kind of break it down to see what I'm looking at first, as far as how much, insurance is going. I mean, I heard it's like $1,400 and more a month just for insurance.
Well, one of the things we need to clarify first, and these are the kind of things we'll absolutely go into deep detail. Now, you can still join this year's CMC because everything we've done is recorded, and you can go back from the very beginning and watch everything we've already done. And then you would be on the live calls when we do them every other Tuesday as well. You could also get into the group coaching today if you wanted. And we don't have a group coaching call this week because of the 4th, but we have one next week. So here's the thing about insurance. Insurance is $1,400 a month, and that's a rough number. It's all over the board depending on your driving history and the state you're in. Those are the two biggest factors when it comes to insurance. Now,
I know you got.
Here's an interesting thing for you.
Connections.
We have everything set up for all of this. Everything you need to get into business, we can guide you in the right direction. But here's the other thing. Even if we're looking at insurance, we could actually, and we would help you with this, we would get our insurance guy to say, based on his driving record and what he's going to do, what state would give him the lowest insurance? Because there are huge differences based on the state you're in. We might end up having you form your company in South Dakota, because South Dakota has really good laws. They don't have a state tax. Typically, insurance rates there are low, but we'll look around and find the lowest. We'll figure out, since you don't really have a residence, we get to pick your residence, and we'll pick the best place to start your business. Here's the other thing about insurance, though. Insurance is only that high if you're going out to get your own authority. Have you decided that's what you want to do yet?
No, I'm kind of thinking, I guess I heard Paul or you or somebody talking about, or was it Leroy that was talking about Snyder, or I know you talked highly about.
That would be Joel. Now,
Landstar.
Yeah, so when Joel talks about Schneider, I do want to clarify this. Joel is working through Schneider's brokerage, not Schneider's trucking company. So he's not talking about being leased to Schneider. He has his own authority, and he gets loads from their brokerage. You could do the same thing with Landstar. I mean, almost all the big trucking companies run brokerages as well. The difference is if you want to lease to Landstar, you lease to Landstar, you run all of your freight for them. If you get your own authority, you could get loads from Landstar today, and tomorrow you could get one from Schneider, and the next day you could get one from your favorite one-person brokerage. But that's when insurance gets expensive, when you have your own authority.
Okay.
If you lease to a company like Landstar or Schneider or anybody, insurance is really cheap. It's not even, I don't even think of it as an issue, because you're not all you're going to pay for as far as insurance goes if you lease to somebody else is the insurance to cover your own equipment. And that's cheap. When you go out on your own authority, you now have to have 2 other insurance policies that are expensive. You have to have what's called public liability insurance. That means if you run somebody over and kill them and they were going to be a brain surgeon, you're going to get hit with a $5 million lawsuit. So you have to have insurance to cover that, and insurance is really expensive. When you lease to a company, they provide that coverage. You don't have to. They take all the risk, really, when it comes to a major accident. The other insurance policy you would need is cargo insurance, which can also be fairly expensive because we haul around a lot of valuable stuff. And if you crash a vehicle and we lose an entire load, it could be $1 million just on cargo. But if you lease to a carrier, you don't have to have either one of those 2 policies. They do it. So your insurance becomes much cheaper. Now, on the other hand, they're also getting part of all the freight rate. So that's the trade-off. What we will explore throughout the program when you're in it is which one is better for you to get started.
Okay.
You know, I
definitely want to.
We have put together a program now where if you follow our program, I can take almost all of the risk out of getting your own authority. We'll teach you how to do it right. It's more work. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be more work if you have your own authority. If you lease to a carrier, honestly, it's pretty darn easy. There's not, other than driving and taking care of your business, there's not a whole lot else to do. You don't have all the compliance stuff. You don't have to set up drug testing, and we can help you with all of those things. I'm just telling you up front, it's more work. The idea, though, is there's also the opportunity for more reward. If we do it right, you can clearly make more money, sometimes significantly more money, by having your own authority. Sometimes I tell people, look, why don't we try 6 months or a year being leased to somebody? Kind of get your feet wet, owning the truck, focus on fuel economy, focus on keeping your costs down, learn the business, and then maybe we'll go out. So right now, and I used to tell people, that's probably the only way you should think about doing this. Now that we have the program, I can tell people, look, we can get you started either way. I'm just going to tell you it's a lot more work to start with your own authority and do it right.
Leasing, is the way to go. Yep.
Yeah, and so
for me,
that's usually the best indicator. When you hear what I just said and you come to an immediate conclusion, I think I'd rather lease, then that's the right answer.
Yeah, get my feet wet, like you were saying.
Yeah, there's no downside to it. There really isn't. The only potential downside is we could say, well, you might have made a little more money had we just jumped right into your own authority. But you also had a little more risk. We take most of that risk out with our program. But like I said, it's a lot more work if you're going to do it right. And somebody's going to say, oh, it wasn't any work. All I had to do is file this paperwork and I have my own authority. Well, yeah, but you're also really likely to fail because you didn't do the work to get yourself prepared to have your own authority. I'm not saying getting the authority is a lot of work. Most people that do it don't do the hard work. So if you do it right, I will clearly say having your own authority should be a lot more work than leasing to a carrier.
Yeah, I've heard you mention before, 10 hours of driving a day and then going back in the sleeper and doing 2 or 3 hours of paperwork, just too much.
Or relationship building or learning about rates and lanes so you understand the market. There's a lot to do if you're doing it right. Now, most people that go get their own authority and they're saying, oh, he's full of shit, it's not that hard. They filed the paperwork, they get an account with the load board, and they pull all their loads off the load board, and then they wonder why they're struggling. It's because they didn't do all the hard work they should have done to become a true carrier. So, like I said, we can almost cut your workload in half if you lease to somebody.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Yeah, I've actually, I think now's the right time to do it, because I believe this. before 2015, I had no credit. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I've been driving since '96, but I had no credit cards, no credit. But since 2015, I've obtained 3 credit cards. I've got my second credit limit increase here recently. I'm up to 44,500, 805 on my highest score.
Nice.
790. So I think I'm ready for. I mean, it's kind of weird. It's kind of screwed up that I waited this long, to do this. But I guess I got my head on right now.
Well, that is a great point. Normally, the reason I tell people they're not ready is they haven't done the work you've already done. They didn't get their personal finances in order. You are so far opposite of that. Like I said, because of your living arrangement, there would never be a bad time for you to start. I could predict that we're about to have the worst economy ever, and that still is a possibility. There is still a possibility out there of a really, really bad economy coming. It doesn't matter. You would still be fine. Yeah. That's the thing about this, because here's the thing. I don't care how bad the economy gets. Somebody has to move the freight, and somebody has to make money doing it. And everybody thinks, oh, well, the mega carriers will take over everything. No, the mega carriers can't control their expenses. They are in a bind right now. The owner-operator that knows how to run a business is in a much, much better position than the mega carriers. They need high enough rates to overcome their high cost. An owner-operator can control their cost and can operate on a much lower rate if they have to. And if we had a really bad economy, it wouldn't matter to you. You'd still be okay. There would be no reason for you to go out of business.
Okay. Now on trucks, the company I'm with, the small company, great company, got a 2024. I love this truck. I've gotten it up to at 57 miles an hour. I've got it up to 10 and a half on flat ground light load. But still, it's a Volvo.
Okay.
13 speed.
Okay.
It's got everything that you would spec it with. But would you recommend a new truck?
No. Hell
like
no.
This?
Hell no.
No.
Why?
Oh, I don't know. It just gets great fuel mileage, but I guess like you were saying, they all can get good.
Just to give you, now I will say this: the newest modern trucks, spec'd properly, will get the best fuel economy possible. But I can also give you examples of people running 20-year-old trucks that are breaking 10 miles per gallon with a 20-year-old truck. Now, are those guys going to get to 11? I don't think so. I think we have maxed out the potential on those trucks. But 10 is incredible. And getting to 11, if you're already at 10, doesn't save you all that much money. It's not like going from 6 to 7. 6 to 7 saves you a ton of money. 5 to 6 saves you even more. But when the higher we get up in fuel mileage, the less each new improvement matters. So, yes, we might be able to build trucks now that are pushing 11 miles to the gallon, but we're building 20-year-old trucks that can get darn close to 10 and sometimes over. And especially if you're willing to run 57 miles an hour like you just talked about. So we don't need a new truck. There's no way you could ever overcome the cost. If I can buy a 20-year-old truck for 10 or $15,000 and put another 10 or 15,000 into it to make it really fuel efficient, I've got $30,000 invested. A new Volvo spec'd properly is probably $230,000. You can't ever get enough fuel economy in that case to make up the difference, as long as we focus on fuel economy on the old truck. Yes, our maintenance costs are going to be a little higher on the old truck, but we have a lot less risk. So in the beginning, again, it'll be that 6 months to a year kind of thing. Buy an older, inexpensive truck. We invest in it to get better fuel mileage. A year from now, you may very well be getting your own authority and buying a brand new truck. It's possible. We could make that work. On the other hand, if between now and a year from now, the economy really tanks and we're looking at, a longer, deeper recession, then you're in a much better position if you don't have that big truck payment.
Okay. What would, if you had to go out and buy a Volvo, I'm because of you, I'm pretty fond of Volvos.
Yeah, I like them a lot.
What's the cutoff year?
Well, we
I know
could.
they had.
Again, when we'll work on this in more detail in the program, we'll get down to budgets and how much cash you have and a whole bunch of other things. It's possible we don't go 20 years old. It's possible we go 10 or maybe even 6 or 7. Truck prices are coming way down. We could easily put you into a modern truck with really good fuel mileage, but I just don't see the reason for brand new yet. Maybe your second truck.
Yeah, I know you mentioned before about you had no problems with a 500,000 mile truck.
In some situations, I have no problem with the truck that has 1,500,000 miles on it.
Okay.
I mean, I know people running around in trucks right now with 2 million miles that are doing pretty darn good with them.
All right. Well, I just need to, I guess I haven't really heard about your program. I know it's like $75 a month.
That's the coaching.
To get started on that.
Yeah. Here's what I'll do, John. I'm going to put you back in the queue, and Angie will help you with all of that. She can go into details on pricing and sign up and all that.
Sounds good. Thank you, Kevin.
You're welcome. I'll look forward to talking to you real soon in the coaching program. Angie, if you could help him out with that, that would be awesome. Let's go to California. Cole, welcome to the program.
Hi, good morning. That was interesting. Listen to that call. Hey, I kind of had some updates on what we talked about. What was it, last Monday? Business numbers and some fuel economy numbers.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to go over the business numbers. I've switched to dry van. I've parked my flatbed and switched to dry van like we talked about last week, trying to see if the dry van market is still okay. And before we go into the business numbers, I wanted to talk about fuel economy a little bit.
Okay.
So since I left the house, I've put down 5,100 miles, and the average on that is 9.86 for mileage.
Okay. Excellent.
That is with a Kenworth.
Yeah, really good.
You guys don't really approve of Kenworths.
Well, it is much. Here's what I'll just say. For me, everything's about numbers and data, and I have access to a ton of numbers and data. I have access to more data on fuel economy than maybe anybody else. Our Fuel Gauges app, I don't even know anymore, has like 5 million fuel tickets in it and 100,000 trucks. Right. And we add about 2,000 fuel ups a day. So I have a lot of access to what combinations get better fuel economy. On top of that, I spend 3 hours a day talking about it with people. And I will just tell you that we just don't see the same kind of track record with a Packard and a Cummins or a Packard engine, we don't see the kind of fuel economy potential. It doesn't mean you can't get good fuel economy, but it's more rare. It's not nearly as common to see those trucks get really outstanding fuel economy. And we now know why. The engine architecture is our limiting factor in those trucks. We can still use low rolling resistance tires and good aerodynamics and spec these with the right gear ratios and drive them the right way, and we can still get really good fuel economy. For me, though, if I have an option, I always want to get the best fuel economy possible. And that's what I've been doing for 30 years. And we've gone back and forth. There was a time where I said, don't even think about buying a Volvo engine. I can't get any kind of fuel economy out of these things. But I didn't understand the engine. And now it's changed. And so that's really the factor. But where, again, you're getting so darn close to 10 that even if I said, oh, but look, if you had this Volvo with this engine, you'd get 11. Yeah, but it's not that big of a difference anymore. We're getting so high in fuel economy that 1 mile per gallon isn't nearly as important as it used to be.
Right. So also this van I'm pulling, it's an old 2006, and it doesn't have any side skirts. Okay.
So you have the potential for another mile per gallon.
So I talked. Yeah, not quite. About 0.7.
Okay.
So Henry said about 7% for side skirts.
Well, here's what I meant. So and he's right on side skirts if they're the right side skirt. I will tell you, there's some side skirts on the market that I think hurt fuel economy. When you see them flapping all over in the breeze, that's a huge problem. If they're moving, we got a problem. They need to be really rigid. They need to be designed right. But here's what I'm talking about with potential. Mesilla Valley, again, I do everything by the numbers. Mesilla Valley did the most extensive testing I've seen on this issue. They claim from a bone stock trailer, just a plain old, just came off the line. We didn't care about tires, no side skirts, no aerodynamics, nothing, to an optimized trailer. You know, maybe it's got I don't even know if we need to go this far, but we could. It's got a lift axle. They're cheap on trailers. It's got low rolling resistance tires. We have all the best aerodynamics. The difference is over a mile per gallon. It was like 1.2 from a bone stock trailer to a fully optimized trailer. So that's what I was talking about, not just the skirts.
Right. Right. Well, and so kind of, with that truck, I mean, I've done a lot of modifications. This Kenworth I'm driving is not bone stock.
Well, good.
It came out of a fleet. It was a fleet spec truck, and they, do what every fleet does, and just they throw random specs together, and here we go. But it's actually spec'd fairly well for pulling a van. The only bad thing is it has a 12,000-pound steer axle. Joel explained a couple of weeks why that's a bad idea, because my gap is not ideal.
Right.
But I have done 5 different things, 5 different upgrades. I've put in a fleet air filter.
Okay.
Fast fuel pump. Air tabs.
Okay.
Wheel discs, but not the wheel, not the wheel covers, but
not
that's
the
flow below kit.
Yeah, that's fine.
Kind of next. And then I've upgraded to wide base single tires.
Okay.
So that's 5 upgrades that I've done from stock. So that's why we're not in the 8s.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's worked out well for you.
Now we're in the 9.8. And kind of for a comparison, because we throw 9 and 10 and 11 around a lot.
I know.
Right now, Joel's blue truck is a 6x4, so that matches mine.
Right.
And his 30-day average is 9.26. Mine is, since leaving the house with this van, is 9.86.
That's impressive.
So that's 0.6 better than his Volvo with the 6x4. Now, there's a lot of reasons for that, I'm sure. He's probably pulling a trailer with, he said no aero on it, so that's the same as mine. He's pulling it in probably worse environments, but
it could be. No, it's very interesting, and you have absolutely really not only maximized fuel mileage on this truck, but I'm also looking at your business report. And really the most important number I look at when it comes to fuel is what is your fuel cost per mile? You're at 36 cents a mile.
Well, that's with the flatbed.
Yeah, I know.
That's with the flatbed, remember?
Right. That's my point. It couldn't,
You know what it
can
is
get
now?
better. Yeah, what is it now?
33.
Oh, that's
I
incredible.
improved 3 cents a mile.
That is incredible. I all day long I see people that are spending twice as much as you are per mile.
You know what it is for the revenue? 18.4% of revenue goes to fuel.
That is so low.
Which
that
is
is incredible.
interesting considering that my revenue's fairly low. My revenue is averaging $1.77 a mile.
Wow. Yeah, see that
Which is
here's
low.
This summarizes my entire take on business, and I can't believe I get so much pushback on this, and I have for years. I don't know why you spend all your time talking about cutting expenses. It's all about the rate. If you just get a high enough rate, then it doesn't matter what your fuel economy is. That is the most ignorant statement I have ever heard in business. I don't care if you're getting $10 a mile. I'm going to maximize my fuel mileage and my fuel cost and all of my cost. Why wouldn't I? I mean, that just makes no sense to me to say that expenses don't matter. In fact, in my book, expenses are 80% of the game because look what happened to the rate. Where are all those people that keep saying, well, all you need is a good enough rate? Okay, what are you going to do now? Where are the good enough rates? You can't, there's nothing you can do when rates go this low except bitch and whine and cry to the government, which is what they tend to do. They want the government to fix something. There's nothing to fix. This is if in reality, if we want to get political, which I almost did today, it is the government that created the problem of high inflation and low rates. And that's the problem. And we can't control that. We can control our expenses. And you've done an awesome job of it.
Now, this, like I said, this setup's a pretty standard setup for Kenworth or Peterbilt in that regard. It's the PACCAR engine with the 12-speed auto with a 264 gear.
Okay.
Now, one thing that just a public service announcement for anybody looking at this 12-speed, the PACCAR, the TX is the PACCAR 12-speed. I think you mentioned the Super Truck program. It had listed the TX 12-speed. That is the Endurant.
Okay.
It's just branded as the PACCAR.
Got it. Okay.
And all the 12 speeds are all overdrive. They don't make, as far as I'm aware, they do not make a direct drive 12-speed.
And they're single overdrive, right? Like a 0.85, I think?
Yeah.
Final ratio?
No, 0.77.
0.77. Okay, deeper than I thought. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, but that.
Yeah, 0.77. Joel's 0.78.
We kind of screwed ourselves when we talked about double overdrives and single overdrives, and it in a sense it made sense at the time, but now you look at it and go, well, your single overdrive ratio is very, very. It's closer to what we would have considered a double overdrive for years than it is what we would consider a single overdrive. Because the term we were using was incorrect. We should have just been talking about the ratio.
Yeah. Right. I agree because this 0.77 is also awful close to that 0.74, which was
like a typical double overdrive, right? Right. The difference was.
Yeah, but it just had one in between there.
Correct. They put it like a 0.86 in there as your first overdrive, and then a 0.73 or 4 as the second, and that's why we called it a double overdrive. But really, the ratio is more important.
Yeah, and then something else that I would mention that people might find interesting is this whole time I've been running very slow, 55 miles per hour, to try to see what was possible. And that was what I ran the whole month of May in my flatbed also, so it's very comparable. But I ran all that in direct. Right now I'm in 11th gear, not 12th.
Okay.
running 1,240 RPM.
Yeah, which is a good place for that engine.
I'll be able to well, I disagree. It's not ideal. It's much better down around 1050 or 11, but I just don't have a gear to run 55, at 1150. Right now.
I'm not sure if you would be happy with it if you had it.
Well, no, I've been testing it. So like right now I'm in 12th gear at 55 and it's fine. I'm 950 RPM.
Ooh, okay.
I'm in California, flat ground.
Yeah,
945 RPM, and it cruises just fine.
How heavy?
It's just when you hit a small incline, it'll shift up. I'm light right now.
And there's the difference there. Yeah, you're flat. You're in California.
Yeah, so you're
right.
not going to be, absolutely. So yeah, you're not going to be running 900 or 950 all day long with heavy loads.
Right.
That's where direct comes in. And this truck's geared to run 68. That's what the fleet ran, and that's really nice gear range for 68.
It is.
When I run overdrive, I'll run about 62, 64, and that puts me at about 1075.
We can't argue your results.
Really good, gets great fuel economy. Right. So, what else was I going to say? Let's see. Do I have any more numbers? What else did you want to know? So the one thing we talked about earlier was, can we start to expand with these numbers, or do we need to wait until the market comes back? At $1.77, I just booked a load with one of my favorite brokers out of California going to Tennessee for $1.90, all inclusive with my deadhead.
Okay.
So that'll come up a little bit from the $1.77, right? Once I get all the way back to Tennessee.
Right.
So we might be able to see $1.80, $1.85 if we're lucky. Oh, deadhead is 3.5% this trip, which is incredible.
Nice. Well, let's talk about the
208 miles.
The rate and your expenses. Now I'm looking at May, and I know numbers are changing, but I'm going to use May's numbers because I have them in front of me. Your total cost of operation minus driver is 88 cents a mile. The average for a fleet right now, Atri says, I believe the number was 228 a mile. It just went up again, and that's with a driver. So if we do the math, you compared to a big fleet, you are actually able to pay yourself $1.40 a mile as a wage if you chose to drive the truck. Not many drivers getting paid $1.40 a mile. I mean, that's an insane number. So by controlling your expenses so much better than fleets can, this is your advantage. You can handle these low rates far longer than they can.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was looking at, because I don't want to bring on a driver just to have to lay him off.
Correct. Right.
So yeah, and like I said, this test isn't done. I've got to finish the round trip, my hitch, and then I'll give you final numbers. Like I don't
Perfect.
have the DEF numbers. I do have that number.
Okay.
300 miles to the gallon on DEF.
Wow.
300 even.
What that tells us is,
for some reason these.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, for some reason these Packars seem to use a lot less DEF than like the Volvos and the Freightliners. I don't know why.
This is an area.
If you look at the fuel gauges.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, if you look at the fuel gauges, like you just said, you said you have access to it, and I was thinking, yeah, I do too, because
right. Everybody that has I should have said that.
Yeah.
Everybody that has a subscription to fuel gauges has the exact same. I can look at some of the stuff in the background, but it has nothing to do with the fuel mileage of the trucks. I can go in and tell you how many trucks we have and how many fuel ups a day. You can't see that, but if you have a subscription, you get to see all 100,000 trucks, all 5 million fuel tickets. You have the same access I have.
Yeah, and that's helped me a lot. I love your system. There are flaws because people don't know how to use it, or they fail, or
that's our biggest challenge. Right.
But honestly, if you spend a few hours on there, you can really learn a lot of information.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of people that have been adding a secondary, a secondary account to track DEF. There's one guy I follow course, I follow Joel and all the Volvo guys, but there's one Volvo I follow that posts his DEF numbers, and it's right around $180
That's,
or something miles to the gallon.
300 to me is pretty darn impressive. Now, here's the thing I have to say, and I'm just going to be totally transparent about this. You may know more about DEF consumption than I do. This is not something I've spent any time on yet, but I'm about to. And our new app is going to help a lot. The new app, you won't have to have a second account. You're going to track it right with the truck. It will show us not only mileage, but percentage of fuel consumed as well, because that's an important number. And it won't take me long to get up to speed. Once I just put my mind to it and say, look, this is an issue, I need to understand it better. I haven't spent any time on it yet, but I'm going to. So the new app is really going to help a lot with that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think I think that's just kind of normal for these. I mean, that's high because my fuel economy is high.
That's part of it, right?
But,
that's why we would look at it per mile and as a percentage of fuel consumed, because both of those things impact it.
Mm-hmm. Like even guys getting 7.5 miles to the gallon with the Packers will still be at like 240 miles to the gallon on DEF,
which still is high
for
compared to what we see with the other trucks. Yeah. So, and that's what I want to learn.
Yeah,
why
I don't know why that
is that the case? Right.
It's got to just be the design. Like they might use more EGR instead of the. Who knows? It's just in the design. But yeah, what are you thinking that $1.77 is going to be profitable for me if we continue that thing? Now you're looking at May's numbers, and unfortunately, that's all flatbed, and we don't really have all the numbers in there because that was just the numbers that were around the truck. Like we talked earlier, we have a lot of expenses that are not just the truck, like office manager expense. We have
so here's the thing.
Insurance for 2 trucks and 2 trailers that we're not using, right?
Correct. So if we were doing a total business consultation here, we would look at those expenses. That's group coaching kind of level stuff. We're not going to do that here. What we can look at here, because I have all the numbers right in front of me, and it all, we're looking at the efficiency of the vehicles, which is the single most important factor in your operation. So you're right. At some point, we could look at all those other things. When we're talking about, should you put a driver in this truck? How do we make it profitable? These are all the numbers we need. And the numbers are just telling me a good story. This is with the flatbed. So if anything, expenses could potentially go down with the van. And we're looking at a rate of $1.77, which is pretty darn low. But the math still works. I mean, there's still room to put a driver in this truck and everybody makes some money.
Right, and that's kind of the hope is if we can make money down here at the bottom.
That's
I'm
it.
just pulling, this is all 100% spot market.
Exactly. Right.
I have brokers that I like to work with and they like to work with me, but it's all 100% spot market. So
and that's why
we could even go up from there by making better connections, you know what I mean?
Well, the way you're looking at this is exactly the way you should be. You're looking at worst case scenario, not best, not somewhere in the middle. You're kind of really crunching numbers on worst case scenario right now, and the numbers still work. And like you said, if anything gets better, it's just a bonus.
Yeah, the one thing that will probably get worse would be fuel economy, right? Can we? Well, first of all, we're probably not going to restrict a driver down to 55. That's probably not.
Well, wait a minute, Cole. Hey, and I'm not going to go. And I'm going to cut you loose after this comment because I got to get to Brent. He's been hanging on with us here for. We could put a fuel bonus program into place that might encourage the driver to run 60 or less. So we wouldn't force them to.
I would like.
Yeah, we would never ever force a driver.
I've been in your coaching program since the beginning, and I haven't got on there. So I'd love to get in there and kind of go through that, and maybe one day I will. But
absolutely.
Anyway, I'll appreciate you taking my call, and I'm looking forward to hearing from.
Talk to you soon. Yeah, we'll go through that fuel bonus program. I'll have Dale Williams jump in and give you his experience with it, because it's really, we turned his company around with that one program. Brent, good morning.
Good morning, Jeff, and how are you?
Nothing like bringing you in and then talking to somebody else for 15 minutes, huh?
Oh, no, it's great. I was learning all the way. What a great, the guy obviously is a bright
Really
trucker,
sharp.
and he knows what he's doing. You were talking about his cost being 88 cents and being able to run freight that's not near what, maybe the market wants or even the market needs, but he's able to make money at it because just like you, I was like, it's like a PhD, man. I was like listening to a college class on how do you run your trucking operation. You said, you got to manage your cost. So just listen to him talk about then the DEF stuff. I know. I mean, I've been around long enough to when DEF came in the market and it became all about the 2010 EPA stuff and all that. And so, but wow, he really knows his stuff on DEF, which he helped me out. So that was fantastic.
Yeah. Like I said, it's one of those. It was all over the board. It's the consumption isn't like fuel economy itself. There's a whole bunch of different factors, and for a while I was just ignoring it, and now we're updating our app, so we'll be able to track it a whole lot better. And if nothing else, it can good maintenance indicator. If something starts to go wrong with the emission system, many times the system makes up for it by using more DEF to overcome the problem. So we could tell a lot from that. So our new app, the new Fuel Gauges app, will now track DEF with fuel consumption as a percentage and as a per mile.
Oh, fantastic. Well, that'll be a big help.
Yeah, so we'll get a ton of new data on that, and then I won't have to admit that I'm ignorant about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been around trucking for a while and listen to you, and I don't ever hear anybody stump you on information. So
that one
that'll be good.
Yeah, I just got to tell people I have put zero effort into understanding it, and it's time to fix that.
Right. Fantastic.
All right, so
yeah,
I'm just looking at my notes here of all the topics I was considering today talking about you with. So let me see if I can make sense of these and give you a whole list to choose from what you want to talk about.
Oh my gosh, your smorgasbord. I get to choose. This is great.
First, I'll let you, if you brought anything to the table today, but if not, I have all kinds of things. So here's what I did a lot of reading this morning. I got up early again, which felt good. And so I was blown away by, again, how many headlines I saw about electric trucks. It was almost overwhelming.
Oh, okay.
And I was going to kind of compare that with what's going on with the election. So the whole big EV push and the election coming up, that was one. This is a big one. Man, this is a really big one. But I've got to get in touch with some of my attorney friends and see if somebody can help me with this one. Did you see the ruling from the Supreme Court on what's called the Chevron deference?
I saw a ruling. We can talk through it. I'm not as apprised on that, but I saw a comment in the industry about how that may be a help to truckers.
It could be huge, not just to truckers. I have talked about this topic so many times. I did not understand, though, that this is what caused. Here's the situation I talk about a lot, and I have been for years. What makes me crazy about government regulations is that most of the big regulations that affect us are put in place not by the people we get to vote for. They are put in place by people who run all the alphabet agencies, the EPA, the FDA.
For sure. Yeah, they're people that were replaced,
the FMCSA, which is, my God, the more I study that organization, what a total train wreck that is. We don't get to vote for those people, and yet they have huge control over our lives, and that was not the way our government was designed. We are supposed to be a representative government. If somebody has this much control, we should be electing them, and we should be able to fire them. I've talked about that for years. I didn't know that there was this case that really set all this up. The good news is the Supreme Court just struck down this case and said, no, we
Right.
should not be operating our government this way.
Right. Yeah, I'm reading it right now. Yep. Yeah, most American citizens don't really realize that the government that you elect, and sometimes the person is in the office is the person you want, and sometimes it's not. But all of the agencies that are governing things, and certainly the Department of Transportation, that's what the FMCSA is under the Department of Transportation.
Right.
Those are appointed.
Yes.
By the president, the administration that's in charge. And so this is why trucking loved Trump from the standpoint of being a president, because he reduced regulation.
Correct.
And people are like, oh man, fantastic. He cut tons of regulations.
Yeah.
But they struggle some with the current administration. And I'm not here to play favorites or anything. I'm just saying they struggle. Trucking does, because of the idea that they put more oversight, or maybe haven't done as much to help trucking, which I'm all for any administration that wants to help trucking have more independence in what they want to do. Because I've talked to a lot of government people, and look, they're just citizens just like the rest of us trying to do a good job, right? But they are not transportation professionals, right? They're just not. They're legislative, administrative professionals. So the idea of I agree with you on the idea of giving us the opportunity to vote or have some influence in who's in the office would be a great thing.
It's in my opinion, it's huge, like really big. If this, if this goes through, and it did, the Supreme Court kind of ruled on it. So the difference now is they don't get to just randomly create these rules. We now can have courts decide whether the rule is constitutional or not, which is exactly what we should be doing, and we don't. We have all kinds of regulations that aren't constitutional, not even close.
Yeah.
So this is in my opinion, this is a huge shift in the way we govern this country.
Oh, it could be. Absolutely. Yeah. It may now, and I don't know if this is possible, but it may slow government down even more.
Yes, I hope so.
because and maybe that's a good thing.
I think it is.
Maybe it's a good thing. Most people don't like how slow government moves.
I like it a lot.
Decisions. But I do too. Because
here's the difference.
Understand that they're. Go ahead, yeah.
Because I complain about this. I was just going to complain about the FMCSA and their next, attempt to fix things again. That was one of the things I have on the list. And why does this stuff go on for years? I want government to move slow. The difference is I think government should only be doing about 20% of what it does today.
Oh, for sure. Well, I mean, our founders, Kevin, this is something really important. So for your listeners, our founders were real specific about this. They said, if and when the government becomes the largest employer in the country, that is a very bad thing.
Yes,
because it gives the reflection of it's too much government oversight in the running of a virtuous, independent republic. So and by the way, the government many years ago became the largest employer in the country.
Yeah, and
so it's not a good thing.
And in many states.
That's not a good thing. Oh, sure, for sure. Well, if it's in the country, it's probably in most states, right?
Well, so state governments have also gotten so big that they are now the biggest employer in their state, separate from the federal government, right?
For sure.
And then that gets really tough for us as an industry because we operate in all 48 states, or 49 technically. There really isn't a whole lot of trucking in Hawaii. But so when states now have, huge governments and regulations, we've seen the kind of headaches California has caused for trucking, which that in and of itself is unconstitutional.
Oh, for sure. It's almost like whatever the California Air Resources Board decides
Right.
for our industry eventually becomes part of the industry. It's like, wait a minute, that's California. Why does California have that much influence over the rest of the nation? It's really because our federal government has allowed them to have their own EPA.
Well, exactly. Now, here's another big one, and this was on my list too. Another alphabet agency, the Department of Labor. The Department of Labor is trying to exert a tremendous amount of control over our economy right now by changing the independent contractor rules.
Oh, well, sure. Yeah.
We shouldn't allow that.
Well, and where did that start?
California.
California.
Yep.
Another thing. It's like, really?
I know.
And here's the thing, though. Yeah, the thing, and we all know this, is that when the tax receipts drop in states, they are going to try to find ways to go after more tax receipts. And so, in other words, more taxes, more influence, or more influx of revenue into the state. And when you've got an industry as big as ours, and we're one of the more large in the United States, and we're centralized, fairly centralized, it's easy to go after the trucking industry because you can say, well, this is what has to happen for this industry.
Right.
And the thing that always got me, thing that got me with the AB5 laws in California, where they exempted a lot of other marketplaces.
Right.
But they didn't exempt trucking, which is like, And the legislator there in California was real clear that then this person was going after trucking. They made it very clear they were going after trucking, and there was probably lots of reasons for that. But it always blows me away how we allow one state to have more influence over the rest of the nation than honestly they probably deserve.
The biggest push, they did go after trucking, but the biggest push really on AB5 was the gig economy.
Oh, sure it was.
Yeah,
those guys got exempted. The giggers got. Uber, Lyft. By the way, the lawyers in exempted too, and so did hairstylists and all sorts of other people
Strippers.
that are in certain industries. Those have all got exempted, except trucking.
Yeah, strippers got an exemption. Just thought I'd throw that one in there.
Didn't know that one.
Yeah, I just thought I'd throw that one in there. The idea, and you were just talking about this, they need more tax revenues. Well, it's much easier to collect taxes from employees than it is independent contractors. I get that. But here's the short-sightedness of that. I can promise you that because I've worked as an independent contractor, when I did, I paid far more tax.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sure.
And that should be the point. I should be making more money. I'm taking on more risk. I should be making more money. When I do, I'm going to have to pay more tax. Mm-hmm. There's no way around that. So, yeah, you might want everybody controlled as employees so you can collect it easy, but you're better off allowing people to be entrepreneurs and be as successful as they possibly can, and you're going to collect more tax revenue ultimately.
Yeah, for sure. And I think about the independent model of anything, whether it's in trucking and small business, or whether it's in food and small business, or whether it's in technology and small business. And it comes back to a word that I had a really fun conversation with one of my nephews. I just got back from vacation. I spent 10 great days with my family, which is, there was 58 of us, and we had a great time. And we're talking about what is, yeah, it was really fun, Kevin. What is America truly, truly good at? And we are the best at innovation.
Absolutely.
On things and how to make things better, more efficient. So the less encouraging our government or anyone is towards the innovation of small business, the less innovation we're going to have in general in our country, because that's what drives things. I mean, this is what drives advancements in the world. And so it bothers me greatly when we don't respect how people want to run their business. This is really what the AB5 laws came after, which is we're really not respecting how somebody has chosen to run their business. Now, there are some areas in which it might protect some owner-operators that might enter into a lease that's not good for them, or into a business situation that's not good for them. But overall, it's obviously a good model because it's existed for a long time.
Let me even address that one caveat you kind of thrown in. Maybe it might protect somebody from a bad lease or even a lease purchase. But I don't want the government to protect me from myself. And that's all they're doing. The information is out there for me to figure this out. And maybe I do make the mistake and I get into a bad lease. Well, hopefully I'm intelligent enough to figure it out and fix it. I don't need the government to fix that for me, and they're never going to.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Well, they're not designed to. And it's like for instance, I know back during when the pandemic first started, a lot of truck drivers were concerned about the rates being as low as they were, and they asked the president to look into it. And the Department of Justice called, and we spoke to them, and they wanted to know if there was price collusion. And and so the whole just the discussion through that is that it's just one of the situations where the government's it's not their job. The government, by the way, is resistant to want to get into most of those situations. They want the free enterprise to operate. Right, so that's why. So we're sort of talking on both sides of this. We're talking about the government where it's too much intervention on one side, and then you get to the Department of Justice, and really they back way off. They're like, unless there's a real crime going on here, like with licensing,
right?
They just say that the free market needs to run itself because they really want to stay out of it.
Yes.
And I spoke to 4 attorneys, 1 analyst, and 1 economist, and finally when I got the economist, they went, "Oh, I see. Price collusion can't be taking place because everybody has access to the data." Right. Well, okay. Fantastic. Okay. We're good. They backed away.
It really, every time I hear this, let's talk about another factor when it comes to price collusion. There are too many players in the market to ever have price collusion. It's not even close.
For sure.
If you look at those two facts, everybody has access to the data and there are so many players. It took us all of 15 seconds to figure out there can't be price collusion in trucking. There just can't be.
Yeah.
Now, here
it's not possible. Plus,
one of the articles I was going to bring up, this whole, again, we're going to go back to the alphabet agencies, the FMCSA's registration overhaul. Didn't we do this once or twice? I don't even know. I'd have to go back and see how many times we've been through this.
I think they've tried because this is like a 10-year finally getting it done.
That's what I mean.
And I'm not trying to be.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be too critical of the FMCSA. Well, here's the thing. I'm not against in any way the FMCSA doing what they're doing because it's got to get done because there's with all the fraud going on in the marketplace.
No, I get it.
Where there's open doors, but it just has taken them a long time to finally get to this.
And here's what's happened. This last round, when they opened up the listening session where we get to make comments, right? The people in the industry get to make comments so we can figure out how this is really going to affect the industry. Do you know how many comments they got this time?
I give up. How many?
4.
What?
4 comments. People are so tired of this that they don't even bother to pay attention to it anymore. But let me tell you one of the comments, because there's so much to unpack in this one little paragraph. So this is one of the commenters. And he said he stressed the urgency of the fraud situation. I get that. That's what we're all trying to solve right now. But the free market will solve it, not the government. But here was his comment. And he's talking about they're taking all of these forms, the BOC3 and the OP1 and some of these others, they're combining it into a website. We know the history of government websites. They are usually awful and they have all kinds of problems, and we spend $1 gazillion building them and then they don't work right. I could go through hundreds of examples of this. They're now trying to say that we're going to get rid of all these forms. We have a one-stop website. It's going to fix all this. Here's his comment. The problem, not a website. It is enforcing the law that are already on the books to stop bad actors. How many times can we look at something and go, wait a minute, why are you screaming for a new law? There's already a law that would fix this. You just don't enforce it. That happens over and over and over and over. In any new law we try to enact, who's going to enforce it? There's nobody. That's the problem. Now, I completely agreed with him on that comment. but then he had to blow it. So he went on to say, is this going to stop brokers from taking 70%, double brokering 4 times? Double brokering 4 times. Is that 8 or 16? How does that even work? Or is it going to stop fake trucking companies operating and scamming everyone? Well, hold on. We got to unpack that sentence there. If a broker does take 70%, which is outrageous, and if it happens, it is so rare, it's ridiculous. But even if they do, there's nothing illegal about that. Why are we talking about that? There's no law that would stop a broker from doing that, and there shouldn't be a law. So he's kind of confusing some things here. Is co-brokering, which a lot of people refer to as double brokering, is co-brokering illegal?
Yeah.
No,
it's not.
No, not at all. So the first 2 things he talks about, them enforcing laws, are not laws or regulations. He's very confused. Now, stop fake trucking companies from operating and scamming everybody. Absolutely. We have laws for that. Enforce them.
Amen. Well, I have long said, Kevin, long said, it applies to so many different areas of where we've created legislation and laws around things. The only laws that get followed are the laws that get enforced.
Yeah.
And that is just the flat out truth. It's like me telling my kids something, hey, go do this or that's going to happen. Well, if they don't do it and that doesn't happen, if whatever I've said that might be a punishment for them doesn't happen, guess what? They're going to just be a little less obedient all along the way. And then it just, if you do that over time, your children just go, hey, whatever dad's saying, he doesn't really mean it. And so it's the same thing in government. This is a little bit of the issue with AB 5 out in California, which is they can pass all the laws they want. If they can't enforce them, then it probably won't get followed.
You know, I'm going to make an outrageous statement. You kind of brought up parenting there.
Get ready. Get ready.
And here's an outrageous statement, maybe on the surface, but I don't think it is. I have watched parents do exactly what you say over and over and over. It happens constantly. If you do this, you're going to get this. 3 chances. If you over and over and over, and the kids get it so fast. I honestly believe, as a parent, you would be better off ignoring your kid, not disciplining them at all, rather than disciplining them, trying to that way. I think that causes far more destruction than just let them go and figure it out on their own, which we shouldn't do as parents. But if those are our 2 choices, you're either one of these parents that threatens over and over and over and over and never does anything. I'd rather just see you ignore your kid and let him figure it out on his own.
Well, there's a lot of truth in that. But the thing I'd say to you, in any parent, I got 6 kids, so we've done a lot of parenting.
You've had some experience
at the end of it, and I've had some experience at it. But here's what I'd say, and this is with my wife and I learned this, and then we can get back to the bit about the trucking business stuff. Is that there's a principle called first time obedience. So if you say it, they need to do it. In other words, so you don't give them 6 chances and timeout and all the other stuff, because that's ineffective. It's ineffective. If you will follow, I promise you, I've watched this happen with our kids, and my wife was the one that introduced this found this principle out. If you'll do it with your children, man, your children are much happier because they live within these good, nice, healthy boundaries. They feel like they're pleasing mom and dad, which in most paradigms is a really good thing.
Yep.
And so the idea that if you'll just follow it, and people can look it up, first time obedience with children, it is remarkable how great your kids feel about themselves and how well they turn out. So that's just some sideline of wisdom from a guy that's raised 6 kids. So, but it's the same thing for all of us. I don't always drive the speed limit. You know why? Because there's hardly ever any police around. And, I like going a little faster because I think I get there faster. Do I?
Absolutely.
I don't know. But the point being is that if it's not enforced, it won't get followed. And so we got to be able to enforce these rules and laws no matter what.
Yeah. So now let's go back to one we were talking about and see why this is such a disaster to enforce, this new Department of Labor ruling that they're trying to push through. And we have a bill that's trying to block it. And I hope that bill wins. And I want to remind people that elections have consequences. And we have one coming up. The current rules about independent contractors, to me, they seem like they work okay. They're all right. I mean, we have a lot of independent contractors. To me, this is a total choice. The government has set up rules. They've been around for decades that says you can work as an employee or you can work as an independent contractor. I don't know why we think this system is broken. It is one of the few systems that I don't think was broken. It could have been a little better, but I'd rather just leave it alone. But here's what they did. There are now 6 factors in the new rule. And the 6 factors are the opportunity for profit or loss depending on managerial skill. I like that one. That is kind of one of the major factors now. If I go to work as an employee and I'm paid by the mile or percentage, my income is absolutely limited, isn't it? Especially in this industry, more than any others, because not only are you telling me this is all I can make per mile, but you're telling me this is all I'm allowed to work. We'll let doctors work 48 hours straight with a couple naps here and there, because obviously working on somebody's heart isn't dangerous, but we won't let a truck driver do that. Right? I mean, how stupid is that if we just make that comparison? So now we're absolutely limiting an employee driver how much they can make. So then the opportunity is, well, you could go be an independent contractor and your opportunity for profit is virtually unlimited, right? There's no end. Once I start a business with one truck, isn't that how the largest trucking company in the country right now started? With one truck?
I do believe.
Yeah.
I do believe they did.
So the profit
many of them.
potential, many of them. That is really common in trucking, which I love. It's an easy industry to start a business and your profit is. So that idea that you are an independent contractor simply because you have the ability to make as much money as you want. I think that should be an important factor. That one's in here. Well, then why am I complaining? Here's another one. Investments by the worker and the potential employer. If the employer invested in the truck, then I'm an employee. If I invested in a truck, then I'm an independent contractor. That seems pretty clear to me. Truck, trailer, equipment, whatever. I like that one too. So again, you're going to say, well, what's the problem? You like the first 2 rules. The degree of permanence of the work relationship. I'm totally confused about this one. Why should this have anything to do with anything? And how do you even judge this?
Well, that can be defined a lot of different ways.
That's part of the problem.
Anytime you put degree.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's way too wishy-washy there. Nature and degree of control. That's another one that's a pretty slippery slope. I'm not wild about that one. This is the one that makes me insane. And every time I bring this one up, people say, well, this isn't AB5. Well, it kind of is. Extent to which the work performed is an integral part of the potential employer's business. Who cares? Why should that matter? I don't see how that should have any impact on this.
Yeah. It's like if you're the same, if you work in the same industry, you should be an employee.
Right.
Like, well, how does that work? You got to have expertise in the industry you're working in to be qualified to be hired as an independent contractor. So what is it? If I want to be a contractor for building homes, I need to be in a different industry.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense. Think about how many contractors build houses. I mean,
right. So that one makes me insane. Then the last one is skill and initiative. Oh, please. Talk about something that you absolutely can't define. Somebody's skill level and initiative. We could argue this all day long. So the first several factors I like, 3 of the factors I absolutely hate, but here's the problem. All 6 factors are weighted equally.
What's that?
How do you even do that?
Oh, I know.
Here's what this does.
Yeah,
This is kind of coming from Greg Feary. You know Greg Feary really well. This is so ambiguous that they can determine anybody as an employee if they choose to. That's the problem with this, and that's what everybody is afraid of. That this is so unclear if you're going to weight. You say you're going to weight all of these things equally. You're talking about 1,000 variables here on all these things. Who's going to enforce this rule? And how?
Well, when you think about it, this is what struck down. Why am I drawing a blank on this? This is what CSA. This is what struck down CSA was well, first off, data collection. Second off, enforcement.
Right.
And look, as well intentioned as our FMCSA is, or even if you go bigger than that, the DOT is, they can't enforce it from the standpoint of the number of people, resources that they have. They can't enforce it over the entire industry. The only thing that has allowed for enforcement so far in our industry was when they mandated ELDs, because then you can get electronic data back, which in a sense is probably a good thing. I know it was not something people wanted or truck drivers wanted, but I would say it, and I just look at the mathematics in this. I say in the end, it'll probably end up being a good thing because they'll be able to charge more for their services because they can justify the time, effort element that goes into moving the freight. Because when we can get freight moved, and I don't know if you're for this or against this, Kevin, I'd love to talk about this as a topic, moving from mileage-based charging to time-based charging.
Yes.
Because I know that truck drivers have a tremendous headache when it comes to, well, I didn't get loaded on time, which put me in a traffic jam or put me into the traffic in that city or going through those cities and ended up putting me late to the delivery, which I was dinged on, and all the things that go into it when most of it is not their fault because they can't justify their time. But the ELD can justify their time. So they should be. I don't know where you stand on that, but I would think, unless somebody can prove me wrong, I would think they'd be able to charge and get more for their services because they can justify their time.
Yeah, I'm all for it. I'm all for it because it is more of a free market solution to a problem that does exist. I've never said that this problem doesn't exist. I just think we need to solve it amongst ourselves as an industry. And I kind of did in my own operation, and I've helped other people do it. And it comes down to some pretty creative ways of paying. You know, it's not just straight mileage or straight hourly. It's a hybrid, but it works really well. For example, my drivers never sat for more than an hour for anything and didn't get paid for it, even though they were on a mileage pay.
Wow. Okay.
They were mileage plus hourly. And here's the way it worked. If, the way our operation was at FedEx, if you are on the first Richmond Hill run of the morning, which I had, FedEx wants you hooked up to your lead trailer at, let's say, 4:30 in the morning. That's your time. You show up at 4:30 in the morning and you hook up to the trailer, and if it takes 2.5 hours for them to finish loading your back trailer, and sometimes it did, you're only sitting for the first hour. I'm paying you for the next hour and a half. That was out of your control. We asked you to come in. Freight wasn't ready. You get paid for everything past an hour. If on your way up to the meeting point, there's an accident and you sat in traffic for 2.5, you're going to get paid for everything past the first hour. If you get to the meeting point and the truck you're meeting with is late, you're going to get paid. So I never asked my drivers to sit more than an hour without getting paid. I mean, that's a pretty simple solution. And then I tied their pay to the speed they would allow the truck to be governed at. The slower they'll let me govern the truck, the more I'll pay them per mile. And those two things work really well.
I remember you talking about that.
Yeah. One of the problems you have with the big mega carriers is they have a hard time changing any pay because they don't have enough profit to raise pay most of the time. Nobody ever thinks
No,
about
true.
that. Look
Yep.
at some of the margins for these big carriers. And when rates get this low, their margins are horrendous. And pay is one of their biggest expenses. You raise pay just a little bit and your margins are gone.
Well, look what happened during the pandemic, and this is one of the biggest issues right now for fleets. And this is why even though their contract rates are higher than the spot market rates, they're still marginal. They're saying that their profit is marginal. It's because they had to raise their rates so high during the pandemic in order to retain the truck drivers that they had. So it's a big issue across the board.
Right. And I talked about that then.
This is why an owner operator, just like when you were talking to the gentleman earlier who had an 88-cent cost base, this is why he ought to be gobbling up freight every place he can, because his cost base is so much lower than the bigger players in the market.
Right. Now, I had another call earlier today. The guy's going to be 60. He was either 59 or he is 60, somewhere in there. Single.
Right.
He's a company driver. He basically sold everything. House, doesn't have an apartment, doesn't have a house, basically lives in the truck, which is certainly doable. He's got a pickup truck, I think, with a payment, and we decided he could get rid of that, and he was all for that. Think about this, and then he wants to become an owner-operator. And his question to me was, is it too late in life? My answer was, hell no. It's never too late. And
of course not. Yeah.
You have put yourself in a situation that it would be impossible for you to fail. All he has to do to survive, and sometimes that's all I care about at the bottom of a market, is we just make it through. We just live to fight another day.
Right.
He's in the best possible scenario. He needs to make maybe like $10,000 a year just to eat, right? That's it.
Right.
So people might say, "But I can't believe he's going to live that way." Well, why not? He's choosing to. And if he does, I told him, I said, your odds of success in this business are 100%. I can't figure out a way you could fail.
Huh. Wow.
But people say, I lost money in my trucking business last. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. I've almost never, ever seen somebody lose money with one truck.
Mm-hmm.
Losing money would mean you had to spend more on the business than the business brought in. That's almost impossible. Mm-hmm. Their problem is they have too many expenses at home and they can't afford to pay their personal bills, and then they blame it on the business. And sometimes it is the business's fault. They're running it horribly. Right. But then they also need $80,000 just to survive a year because of a mortgage and 3 car payments and a bass boat and whatever. This guy's eliminated all that. He has no risk left.
Mm-hmm. Well, there you go. That's one goes along with the same principle. Try to live debt free.
Absolutely.
You can live debt free. Boy, money works a lot more for you than it does against you.
Yeah.
And you got to make it. You got to figure out how you can make money work for you. Now, you also brought up electric trucks. That was number 1 on your list, but you haven't gotten to it yet.
I know. So here's the thing, and one of the reasons, I always struggle with this because this is all political, and politics are one of those topics that some people
no doubt.
Absolutely love when I talk about it, and other people they'll change the channel and turn me off, and I know it.
Oh, okay.
So I try to really talk about it more so when it has a direct impact on us in our industry, not just politics in general. Mm-hmm. This is clearly one that could have a huge impact on us. We are finally starting to get costs of operating these vehicles. I think I told you what the cost of the hydrogen electric was per mile. Did I tell you that?
We talked about that last time. We talked about that the last time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we had a caller now with the 36 cent per mile. Let's call it an energy cost, because fuel may not be the right word anymore. Let's call it an energy cost, 36 cents a mile. The hydrogen electric truck right now, the Nikola, 75 truck, a fleet with 75 of these, tracking all the numbers, posted their numbers. They didn't put out this number, but they put out enough information that I was able to calculate this number. They gave us the range of the truck, how far it can go on a kilogram of hydrogen, how much a kilogram of hydrogen costs. They gave us all the numbers. I did the math. It's north of $5 a mile. Energy cost alone.
Right, I remember you saying that.
Come on. Nobody with half a brain would think we are anywhere near the point where we should even be considering a technology like this. That is so outrageous.
I think when you and I were talking, right, when you and I were talking about this, I was telling you that the cost difference, I liken this to drones. And a lot of people talk, we should just use drones. We should use drones. And in some rural applications, that's a great way because there's no other options. But when it costs I'll give you the cost differences. I think it was $1.90 per package that the brown trucks that pull up to people's doors. That's what it costs them per package to deliver it. The drone delivery was $12.90.
Unbelievable.
So there's a $11 difference. Yeah, so we're nowhere close to having drones deliver in any capacity when it comes to where we are in today's world.
Now, I am all for any company, Amazon, whoever, who decides on their own they want to use drones. Maybe they see it as the future. Maybe they know they need to do it, even though they might lose money on it in the beginning so they can learn. I'm all for that. I don't want the government forcing any of this. And they are forcing the EV. Not only are they forcing it, they're using our money to pay for it. And that's what I am completely against.
Well, for sure they are.
And I was just shocked when I go through. There was an article today that some trucking magazine decided to write about how to maximize efficiency on your EV truck. Why are we writing articles about this? Who decided to waste time?
Don't know.
Unbelievable. I could write an article that, how to maximize the profit on your 1959 Brockway, and it would be more relevant than an electric truck today. We're not using them. So, but article after article after article about electric trucks. Why are we even talking so much about these things? We're nowhere near ready for them, and the costs are outrageous, but it's being forced on us.
It's almost like we're being conditioned to accept them, regardless of what they cost, regardless of how it's going to work out.
What they weigh.
We're just being conditioned to accept them because the government, the government is using so much of our tax dollars to fund the research on this. Now, look, I kind of think about this. Think about what did the government do anything to help the car industry when it opened up?
No.
Like way back in the day when Henry
nothing.
Ford was bringing them out, they didn't do anything. Did
Nothing.
they? Yeah. So I'm just trying to figure out where all of this makes sense.
You want me to explain it to you?
It does. I do struggle with it a bit.
You want me to explain it to you?
Yeah, I'd love to hear.
So first, I need you to put on your tinfoil hat and lower your blackout shades.
Oh, all right. I'll draw the curtains.
So let's think about let's go back to the auto industry. Between auto manufacturing, auto dealerships, and oil, because we have to have oil to run cars. Can you think of one change that generated more wealth than that? The oil barons, the auto, I mean, they were by far our biggest industries for a long, long time. Energy is huge. Everything we do requires energy. That energy now is petroleum-based. Right. And it's petroleum-based because that's the most efficient.
Well, we're a petroleum-based society.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For a reason. It's and are oil companies huge? Of course they are. They have to be. That isn't necessarily a bad thing. But here's what I see. And this is why it's being pushed by a government. Because if you can change the source of energy, now you can create a whole bunch of new billionaires. That's all this is. This is a big money grab.
Right. Well, we've talked about this before. I remember you talking about it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is a big money grab. This is crony capitalism at its worst. This is the government taking our money and propping up all these electric companies, whether it's solar or vehicles, tax credits, chargers, all this stuff. They're just taking our money to make a whole new class of billionaires.
Right. Wow.
And we'll suffer for it. We already
Didn't
are.
think about it that way. That's a pretty interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting way.
So now,
that's an interesting way to look at it. I never thought about it that way.
I don't know if any. Do you think anybody is still left in the camp of undecided when it comes to president right now? Is there anybody left that really doesn't know?
Well, if you only have those two options, and after what people witnessed last Thursday night, I believe it was, then it's like, I get it. And here's the thing, and it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that we've allowed our current president to be governing with this health the way that it is.
Yes.
It's just unfortunate. I don't want that for America anywhere at any time.
Ever,
so
right.
It's just unfortunate. It really is unfortunate.
And I know that's the focus right now. The focus is, well, he just had a bad debate night. Mm-hmm. Come on. This was not a bad debate night, and this was no shock. I mean, we have been talking about his cognitive abilities for years now, and we keep hearing, oh, there's nothing wrong with him. Now, when it is clearly right in front of us, they call it a bad debate night. I don't even care about all that. I don't care who lied more in the debate. I don't care who performed better. This issue alone is enough to decide.
Yeah.
This administration is pushing EV hard, and I believe Trump will reverse all of that. I absolutely believe he will reverse all.
Probably
we will not continue down this path if we have the Republicans back in office. And I get the whole uniparty thing. I'm not a big fan of government, period, right now. I think both of our parties are very corrupt. But if nothing else, I could call it the lesser of two evils right now. This EV push is big and it's bad, and this is one way to turn it around. Because if they get elected again, if somehow the Democrats get elected again, they have 4 more years to push this stuff, and it's going to be bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it usually takes almost a decade to get anything put in place with our government. So I'm not for it, not because I'm an expert. I'm no expert when it comes to electric trucks. I just know that of all of the CEOs of big trucking companies that I have listened to talk about this, every one of them pretty much say the same thing, which is, I can't make it make financial sense.
Yep, that's it.
There's nothing in it that says I can run my operation better or more efficiently or more profitably with electric than I can over the current petroleum-based vehicle that I'm running it on, because it just doesn't make any mathematical sense. It's got to make sense mathematically, or you can't do it if you run a business. Now, if you're a government, you can do whatever you want because your revenue is taken from your citizenry.
Yeah.
So you have an automatic revenue stream that comes in. So, and this is where I'm all for the free market deciding on should electric be doing what electric can do for the marketplace, because the only reason, as you just said, the only reason electric's really working right now is because the government is subsidizing its push into the marketplace. And I know this because I was at a conference and I heard the largest electric charging station group talk about the big test that they've got going on in an area. And they said, well, it's with the U.S. Postal Service. That's a big organization. And I said, I'm sitting there in the crowd going, wait a minute, the Postal Service, that's a government agency. They don't have any profit motive. So, sure, they're testing it.
Yeah.
It's like, great. You just used an example of a company that is going to, or a service is going to be there no matter what, because it's in our Constitution.
Yeah, it can operate at a loss forever.
That's a bad example.
Right. It's a horrible
forever.
example.
And by the way, have you ever seen their report every quarter? It's always the U.S. Postal Service always puts we only lost $1 billion.
Right. This core, I know
$1 billion.
It's mind-boggling, and we have to go one step further. You're right. The only way the EV thing is ever going to work is the government is going to have to spend a ton of our money to make it work.
Oh,
I'm not even going to get into the
it's the only
idea
way.
of
Yeah.
whether it really is better for our environment or not. I'm not sure if we understand that well
Yeah.
enough to know. I just
Yeah,
sent
I
you a
don't know if we
link.
do either. Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen this link or not, this U.S. debt clock.
Oh gosh, that thing scares me to death every time I turn it on.
Look at how fast
Oh,
the numbers are going up.
so fast.
In the time, I just pulled it up about 2 minutes ago as you were talking. And in the time you were just talking till I butted back in, our debt went up $1 million in that time. I was watching the clock.
Well, I'll send you the graphic. I'll have to find it. I'll send you the graphic on what does $21 trillion look like compared to like $1 million.
I gave
It's
you
visual.
I gave you my example, right?
It'll scare you
of the time.
It'll scare you to death, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
A
you did.
million.
I remember.
A million was 11. A million seconds was 11 days ago.
Right.
A trillion seconds was
Right.
34,000 BC.
Right.
Come on. And we are now.
Oh my goodness.
I had to look this up, but it looks like we're not that far away from $35 trillion in debt. So I don't care if you could prove to me that electric vehicles will save us all and 20 years from now we'll be living in a green utopia. I don't care if you could prove it to me. My answer would still be the same. I don't care. We can't afford it. I would really like to live on, 30 acres of pristine, wilderness land with very cool buildings, but I can't afford it. I just have to realize there are some things, no matter how much I want, no matter how good they're going to make my life, if I can't afford them, I can't afford them. And our government is now at a place where it can't afford anything.
Well, and I'll tell you, because you were talking about the election. Speaking of the election, voters vote with their pocketbook.
Yes.
They just vote with their pocketbook, and we've already seen what inflation does. And there's a new generation of people that have experienced the challenges of inflation. And so for a long time, our inflation was almost non-existent, but we experienced it and are still experiencing it some. And
it's rough.
Hey, can I cover a few things of what's going on? Can I cover a few things of what's happened since I was gone for a week?
Absolutely.
Cover a couple things on what's going on with freight. Yeah, fantastic. So what I'd say on freight is I'm going to say this, and it may be a little bold, but the person I know that's not as usually bold about things is being a little bold about this, which is Noel Perry, our chief economist. You know, Noel, he's usually more like, hey, be a little cautious about there. But he's like, maybe we're going to experience a little bit better rates this summer than we think. All right. So, and I say that because I'm looking at a couple of indicators here. Number one, that the last 2 weeks, the market demand index, the pressure has gone up. So that's a good thing for the trucker, because as it goes up, rates go up.
Yeah.
Rates did modulate down 3 cents, but the pressure continues to increase. And the thing that I think that I encourage all truck drivers out there to look at is before I transition to this, the van marketplace, which was very interesting. It actually increased. The rates have increased week over week from $1.96 to $2.05. Last 2 weeks, from $1.96 to $2.05. So went up 9 cents in 2 weeks. That's really good. The biggest part of the market, 80% of the freight out there is dry van freight, went up 9 cents. That's good profitability, and that's over $2. So that's a good indicator. Flatbed actually has modulated down about 7 cents, but it kind of moves back and forth quite a bit. And the refrigerated marketplace continues it went up some. It got hit pretty hard the last 7 or 8 weeks, but went up 9 cents the last 2 weeks, which is really good. But here's the thing that gave me some optimism. This is what gave me the optimism, is when I looked at the outbound tender reject index. It had been in the fours, the mid fours for the last few weeks. Now here's the thing for the listener. When the outbound tender reject index is the contract freight that's being rejected at the rates that the big carrier said I'll move it at, and so they either want to renegotiate it or the shipper will find another person to, or not someone else in the market to move it. But what's been interesting is when I look at the Alpine Tender Reject Index, it had been in the mid 4s for a long time, and it kind of been the high 3s and 4s. Now, when it goes above 5%, the spot market rates start to go up. Can I give you an example on that?
Yes.
During the pandemic, the normal, during the pandemic, the Alpine Tender Reject Index number was between 20 and 30. So it's 4 to 5 times higher than normal. Normal is 5%. So when it goes above 5%, that's a good indicator. Well, you know what it was at the end of the week last week? 6.35. That's a good indicator. Now let's watch it, see what happens over the next few weeks to see if we're going to move more into a better rate market for the owner operator, because that to me is that's the indicator, because that's contract freight that would move into the spot market. Now remember, a lot of these big truck drivers, a lot of these big truck owners, truck fleet owners have a brokerage company, and so they will move freight in the most profitable way they can. So
Absolutely.
It's interesting to watch it happening inside the marketplace. So that's a good thing.
I agree. And that was on my topic list, by the way, rates. Believe it or not.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
And
Oh,
here's what it
fantastic.
was, because I have an interesting little caveat to this, because I have been seeing some positive stuff, and I saw Noel's, and it all looks good. And then there's another big factor. And we know historically this can be a really big factor in trucking. It's hurricane season.
Right. Oh, well, yeah, for sure. And we're going to have, by the way, I listened to a great, just for all the truckers out there, I listened to NOAA, the director of NOAA, which is the National Oceanic something.
Yeah, right.
It's the people that predict the weather for the government.
Yeah.
These are people that it's a worldwide organization. So they're connected to a worldwide organization. They said we're going to have a higher than normal hurricane season than normal. So know that there are going to be some things happening within the natural disaster area, which nobody wants that for the citizenry, but it does happen. We can't really control it. It's going to be bigger than normal. So that should drive rates in some areas certainly up higher than they normally would be.
We already have one really early in the season. We got a big one.
Oh, I know. I saw it.
Craig Fuller at FreightWaves has done some pretty cool analysis, and down to the point of if this turns one way and hits Mexico more, that will have one impact on freight. If it hits Texas, it's going to have a totally different impact on freight. And I never really thought about this.
For sure.
A lot of freight comes across the border from Mexico, and then we have to move it around the country. If Mexico gets hit
more than
hard,
ever, Kevin.
Yeah.
More than ever now.
I know.
Because Mexico's our biggest trading partner now.
Yeah. If Mexico gets hit hard, their emergency response is nowhere near as robust as ours. That they will really struggle with this, and it could take them months to get back to capacity, and that will impact our freight negatively. If it hits Texas, it'll be the exact opposite, because then it's all the FEMA loads and all the emergency that we do respond quickly and robustly, and that will drive freight up. It's a pretty interesting little, but then we have all season, and most of the time the hurricanes do increase freight.
Correct.
So pretty interesting.
Well, no doubt
we might have a good summer.
We've done some modeling on that truck. Yeah, we've done some modeling on that truck stop too, and on the impact of, depending on where it hits, on what happens to rates in those generalized areas. Yeah, fantastic, man.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Good stuff. Anything else you want to cover? Do we want to take some calls?
I can take one call. I've got to. The reason I was late to the call today is I was out taking care of my mom. My mother has dementia. We had a neurologist appointment, so I was out taking care of her, and so I can take one more call. She's actually still here. I've got believe it or not, got to get her back to her home.
Got it. Okay.
So, all right. Yeah, let's take one call. Let's do it.
All right. Let's. I'm going to bring in Matt in Iowa. Matt, welcome.
Yeah. Good morning, gentlemen.
What's on your mind today?
So you were talking about the different costs and the different energies.
Right.
And there's I don't know if it's a TikTok video, Instagram, whatever. I watch it on Facebook Reels is where I watch some of these short videos. And it's a woman, she's redoing somebody else's. So the original video is a guy with the Cybertruck. And, you know, it starts out, he backs up to the charging station and he's hitting the cord on the body of the vehicle, you know, to get the flap to open. And then it cuts back to her where she just pushes the flap and it opens, where she's at the gas station with her SUV. And then he plugs it in, gets in his vehicle and shows the thing. An hour and 20 minutes to charge. She starts her stopwatch, puts gas in her vehicle. In 4.5 minutes, she's full. And then it shows he's fully charged, got a 400-mile range, opens his app. His bill was $80 or 70 some bucks, whatever it was. She shows her pump was a $46 or whatever to fill up with gas, and goes in and looks at her dash and has a range of 580 miles.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
And then she just goes, explain this to me.
Why?
How
Right.
does this
Why?
make any sense?
Yeah. Now, look, if you want to drive a Tesla, you absolutely should. If you want to drive a Ford Lightning, you absolutely should. I don't want these manufacturers to be forced to produce these vehicles, which they are being forced. I don't want us being forced to use them, which we are. That's the whole problem I have here. Build all the electric vehicles you want. Tesla's been very successful at it. They should keep building them. If they want to build their truck and put it into the market, they should. I just, all the subsidies have to stop.
Yep.
Let it work on its own.
Matt, I'll tell you something funny. So I just mentioned to Kevin, I was on vacation last 10 days with my family and everything. We were in Breckenridge, and we went up to Mount Baldy, and we drove all the way up till the pavement end and got a dirt road to get to the trailhead. And we get to the top of the trailhead, and I park. There's me and a bunch of my nephews and nieces. We're having a great time. Right as we get to the trailhead, I look to my right at this little outhouse. It's like a little, just a little bathroom area. There is a Tesla Cybertruck parked right there. I was like, well, no, that's out of place. So this was it was very unique. I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah.
But I'm with you, man. What they and this is the thing, Matt, that gets me on this. And look, I'm all for investigating new ways for us to create more efficiency and getting around and more predictability and better clean environment. I'm all for that. I think that's a good thing. But you can't train wreck the car or truck that's getting you there in order to get there. So, what they never talk to you about, Matt, is exactly what you just made an example of, which was, well, not just the cost, but the time. That it takes to get this stuff done, because there's a cost in time.
Absolutely.
To get things done. And I remember looking at some data last year that said that electric cars still don't make sense when you factor in time. They still don't make sense because your time costs something. Last time I checked, Matt, time is the only thing we can't get back. I can't get my time back. So.
Yeah. Hey, Matt, before you go on to another topic,
on the hydrogen side.
Hold on just a second.
Okay, yep.
I'm going to make a comment, and then I'm going to let Brent go because I know he's got to go, but I wanted to get to this topic. And I'm going to keep you on the call, and you and I can finish or whatever, because you could comment on this too. Brent,
Sure.
you know what I've been doing for decades. I mean, everything I do is designed to help drivers do something better, live better, be healthier, make more money, be happier, whatever.
Heck yeah.
I'm facing, and I've faced this before, and I always hate being in this position. And I never know exactly how to handle it. So I'm pretty active on social media, where you can reach a lot of people. You and I have talked about this, the whole FreightX community. I like it. There's some really good people in there. It's really diverse. You get some brokers, some, we have attorneys in there. There's drivers, there's owner operators, fleet owners, really good conversations going on. We can disagree now and then. It's not a big deal. I'm pretty passionate about keeping drivers healthy. And I have really, really strong opinions about how you do that. And many of them were very controversial when I started. Keto, I was told over and over, you're going to kill people. People are going to have heart attacks. Drivers are going to be, dying in the streets. I've heard the same thing about carnivore. This is so radical. You can't do this. We've proven it's no longer radical. It's becoming much, much more mainstream. I have dozens and dozens of doctors on my show all the time that talk about this stuff. There's somebody on FreightX that I really respect, and he's really helping drivers with fitness. I mean, the guy's incredible at the workouts he does when he's on his truck. He's competing in marathons. He helps people understand how to train in the truck. Really good stuff. And I've been watching him do it for a while, and I really respect him. Just recently, he started giving nutritional advice. It couldn't be worse. It is horrendous.
Oh, no.
The products he is posting that people should be consuming, I don't even know what to say. Well, I do know what to say about them, and I'm saying it. And it's awful. This stuff is some of the worst food, totally unnecessary to be eating this stuff. And I kind of had to decide, do I ignore him? Because I really do respect what he's doing on the fitness side of things. Or do I call him out because the more respect he gets for being really right about fitness, the more likely people are to listen to him about his nutrition, and this will derail everything. I don't care how much you work out. We have proven you can't outwork a bad diet. It's impossible. One of the best ultra marathoners in the world and one of the best Ironmen in the world was pre-diabetic because of his diet. And that's what people were told to eat and that's the kind of advice he keeps giving. And I finally had to decide, I can't, I got to call him out. And I did, and it's probably going to turn into a dumpster fire, but I don't care because I have to be, I know this stuff inside and out. He's 100% wrong on the products he's recommending. And I finally decided I just have to call it out. I'm trying to be as nice as I can. We can agree to disagree, but this stuff is just bad.
Right. Well,
So
you've been on the train for a long time, and last time I checked, you're a certified nutritionist. Am I still correct in that?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I still
So it's
read,
not like you don't know what you're talking about.
several books a month on the topic. And I still have doctors on my show weekly. Right. We talk about this. We do a lot of work in this area, a lot.
Right.
And we've been wrong about a couple things.
Yeah.
And I've admitted when we're wrong. We change it. Look, we learned something new. Here's what it is. I just hate to have to call out somebody like that when I do respect a lot of what they're doing.
Right. Well, maybe there's a way you could work with him to say, hey, have you considered this or considered that?
Yeah. That's what I'm trying.
Yeah.
So with that.
Yeah. That'd be my advice too, is well, yeah, if Brett needs to go out. Just from a lot of other listeners out here, I'd like to say thanks, Brett, for everything you do and bring. Your perspective is very, very interesting and very informative.
Oh, thanks, Matt. Hey, Matt, well, thank you, first off, for the compliment. I really appreciate it. I love Kevin, love what he does to help truckers. And truckers have been so beneficial to my life. I love you guys as part of the American experience and what you do. And if there's, and I don't know why God's done this to me, but He's just said, hey, whatever you can do to help the truckers that are out there, especially the owner operators, then you need to be doing it. And so that's just what I've been trying to do every day, Matt. And is there anything else I need to do? Just let us know. We're happy to help across the board. I like that I work for a company that can help, with Truck Stop, and then before that was, of course, with Overdrive. But I just like that I've been in somewhere that whatever my daily activity was, that it could help a truck driver enjoy being a truck driver more, because that's really my goal. I know it's Kevin's goal too, and so it's just great being on, man. Have a great day, and Kevin, good to be on with you, pal, and I'll see you next Monday.
All right, talk to you then. Take care.
Yes, sir.
All right, Matt, what else you got today?
All right. Well, first I just follow up with what Brett just said there, and the stuff you bring to the show. Last Monday, you had the lady on, I'm sorry, I don't remember her name, from Relay Payments.
Yeah.
And I actually, with one of my new deliveries, it's a forced lumper type thing, and they charge through Relay, and I never knew what it was. So I always had to go in to use my credit card, and of course, there's a credit card fee on there, but that doesn't show up on the receipt. So now it's just an app I downloaded, and can get all that information on my own receipt if I pay it through my phone instead of handing my credit card to the lumper service.
So
it actually works better for me to do it myself on the phone than have them do it.
Relay, you mean?
So Relay, yep.
So here's the thing, and
downloaded
I'm glad you said that. Here's what happened. This was probably a mistake on my part. I didn't do the homework I usually do. I got I get emails every single week, sometimes every day, about people who want to be on the show. Happens all the time. I very seldom accept when somebody reaches out to me. Almost all the guests come to our show because I've already done the work and I want them on the show. I turn down people every single day, every week, because, I just don't have the time to go do all the research I have to do. And if it's not a big enough topic for me, I'm not going to do it. So somebody sent me an email and said, look, we have an expert on fuel fraud, which I think might be a bigger issue than freight fraud from my point of view, because I know how to avoid freight fraud. It's not all that hard. If you use the model we talk about all the time, freight fraud really isn't a problem. So, but I saw this fuel thing. People are, they're stealing and skimming your card. And I thought, oh, well, that's a good topic. So without doing any homework, virtually none, I just said, oh, okay, she's an expert on fuel fraud. Let's get her on. Had I looked, I would have done some research on the fact that she was really here to represent Relay Payments. I just thought she was here to inform us about freight fraud. And as soon as she started talking about it and I started looking it up, I'm like, boy, I blew it this time. I know nothing about this company. And the more I look, the more I think I probably wouldn't be in favor of it. But she's already on here, so I'm going to let her talk about freight fraud, and then we're going to move on. So, yeah, I'm glad you figured that out, because I blew it on that one.
Yeah, so just for an example, most lumper services now, everything has gone to no contact, no touch. So you hand in all your bills and all that, they take your phone number. Go back out to your truck. When the lumper unloads you, they just send you a text with the bill. And then if you have one of the, fuel payment cards, your Comdata, I draw a blank on all their names all the time, but EFS, whatever they are, there's ways to pay there. But this Relay is one of the new systems, and it is more designed towards owner-operators that don't have those types of cards.
Right.
So, and it can run right through your credit card.
Yeah. I have a feeling the more I look into the company, the less I would be excited about it.
Yeah, and I haven't looked at their fuel program yet. I'm guessing it's really close to like the mud flap type setup.
I think so, yeah.
So that's what it looks like. You choose a fuel stop, and then they give you a code to turn in to be able to turn the pump on, and it'll get charged right to your credit card.
Yeah, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the company. I just don't see anything really special about it. And the point really is, I wasn't bringing somebody on because of Relay Payments. And that was my fault. I didn't do the homework. I just thought she was going to come and, educate us about fuel fraud, which I thought was interesting. And then when she started kind of pushing the company, I thought, oh boy, I think I blew it this time. Like I said, I don't even know if they're bad. But the reason I don't accept most of these offers is I don't have time. I already have a good fuel card solution. Yep. I'm fine with it. I don't have time to go look and do all that research over. Like I said, this happens at least every week, sometimes every day. And it's easier for me to just say, no, I'm not having you on the show. I don't have time to go do all the homework. So, I won't do that again.
To give a little behind the scenes here for everybody else, you remember Kim, and you know how much of a sweet lady Kim is?
Yeah,
She had a hard time telling no to people.
right.
So a lot of these other ones, she used to send them to me to see if it was something to talk about, before sending it to you. So I used to deal with this more often of these people that wanted to come on the show, and
Right.
and Kim couldn't tell them no, so I would listen to their spiel, and
You would
say,
tell
no,
them
this
no.
doesn't fit with Kevin.
Right.
Won't be interested.
Right.
But yeah, Angie and Brittany they're much better just telling people no.
Absolutely. And they do always send me the emails. So if it's an email or a voicemail or a phone call, they send it to me. But they know most of the time I'm just going to say no. This one, I don't know if I was thinking about the whole fuel thing, and I thought, well, this will be an interesting topic. And I didn't stop to think. And I should know, very few people actually volunteer to come on the show just to educate us. Almost everybody is going to come on the show to push a product. I know that. I just had a brain cramp on this one. I don't know.
Yeah, and like you say, once I've used it for several more weeks, maybe I can give you a better review of it too. So
yeah. But I should have done that work before I ever brought her on the show. That's really the lesson. Right. Right.
Yep.
Which I almost always do. You know that.
So
we do lots of work in the background
Yep.
before we ever talk about this kind of stuff. And this time I just didn't. And it got me. So.
So, the other alternative fuel, the hydrogen, and I don't know the numbers on this one, but it's just what I've seen happening on docks over the years. And the hydrogen fuel cell does make sense to convert to electricity. So a lot of the warehouses, because I'm in grocery, so they have to have electric. They can use propane, but that's pretty rare for even indoor buildings now.
Right.
A lot of them have switched to hydrogen fuel cells, and it's working better than swapping out batteries and recharging batteries in a forklift.
Okay.
But like I say, I don't know the cost on it because I don't have
right, and that's
contacts who could answer them questions.
I'm not against any of these technologies. I'm wide open to. I think everybody remembers 2017 or whatever year it was. I was talking about electric. I'm still a fan of electric. But I said back then, what I'm afraid is the government's going to screw it up, and they clearly have, and so much so that they've turned me against it. I'd rather not even talk about it anymore. Because the whole point is it has to be cost effective. And what they're pushing, and this is where I have a problem. They're pushing that we have to spend this money because it's better for the environment. That's what they're saying. So even when we point out, look, it costs more, they're going to say, yeah, but it's for the good of the environment. Well, if I believed that, maybe I could get on board, not with the kind of numbers we're looking at today. I don't care how good it is for the environment. You can't afford it, not at those numbers. But I can't get on board because nobody can prove to me that it actually is better for the environment.
Well, yeah, that's the big unknown. And
right.
There's unproven theories out there right now, so I don't want to go into the weeds on it because I don't know what the truth is. But solar alone, the predictions are once we put so many solar panels out across all of Earth, we're going to increase global warming.
Absolutely.
Because of the heat they're reflecting.
Absolutely. How could you not? That's what I mean. And we're digging up all kinds of, heavy metals and we're mining. And then when we create these batteries, they're highly toxic, highly flammable. We have to dispose of them at some point. Nobody has convinced me that this is better for the environment. It could be worse. One of the best examples, and I wish I could find this. I've looked for it a couple times. This might have been, it could have been as much as 10 years ago, I think. somebody did a really, really in-depth comparison from start to finish, every factor you could possibly imagine figured in on which vehicle was worse for our environment, a Prius or a Hummer. And there was so much data in there and so many examples that there was no way I could even begin to fact check all of it. So I had to take it at face value. And I don't know if it's true or not, but most of it made logical sense when you looked at it.
This is an old study too.
It's really old. Like I said, it could be as much as 10 years, I think, but I can't find it again.
I would guess even older than that.
Maybe.
Because, yeah, they went through all the materials to build
Right.
the vehicle.
All the transportation to move all these materials around. Yeah. And they concluded
the lifespan and all the fuel it used its whole life.
Right. And how that fuel gets to where it needs to. I mean, it was exhaustive trying to read this thing, much less trying to fact check it. But in the end, they really determined that the Prius was worse for the environment overall than the Hummer.
Yep. Yeah, quite eye-opening.
And it was pretty widely distributed, and I didn't really see any good counter arguments against it. I didn't see anybody really prove that they were wrong.
Yeah. No, I've never heard that disputed or never seen an article about it. Because, yeah, I remember that. That's, like I say, been a long time.
Yeah, it has been a while.
But, yeah, so the other thing I was just going to say about the hydrogen fuel cells with forklifts and what Brett had said about the time value of it, I think that might be a big part of it for like a warehouse. And my experience is mostly with Walmarts that I can see. So at Walmart, you'd have a whole area just for charging and one person that was in charge of that. You'd have an extra employee, plus you'd have, I don't even know a number, but I'm going to guess 30, 40 extra batteries that are sitting on the charging rack to be charged, and then they swap them out.
Right.
So just the time value difference and all that extra cost versus every forklift has its own fuel cell and all it does is pull up to a hydrogen pump and 2-3 minutes fills up and the employee that drives the forklift does it. So it's the savings of all the extra batteries you don't have to buy and the extra employee and the space and the chargers. And maybe compared to electricity, it is cost at least neutral. I don't know that there'd be a savings there, but it'd be the time value that they're saving. More and more Walmarts are switching to hydrogen.
And I've said from the beginning that I'm kind of confused about the hydrogen thing. There must be something to it because there is a push for it. So I was waiting for numbers and, some of the details and the numbers and the details from this article were so horrendous that I thought, I just don't get it. Now, in your warehouse example, we don't know the cost, which still has to be a factor. But maybe in a controlled situation like that, it is a viable technology. I'm open-minded on it. I draw the line on all the damn government money they're spending on this. I'm okay. Let's explore all of these things. Maybe there is a way to make hydrogen work and make it affordable. I don't know. But I know what will stop us from figuring it out. If all we keep doing is throwing our money at companies to do this stuff, we're never going to figure it out. We've watched this over and over and over. Solar was a huge scam, still is today. There's so much government money that I am afraid to go buy solar panels now. Because there's so many scams in solar, I don't even know where to begin.
Well, and then that changes big state by state because of the way they write laws with once you hook your solar panels to the grid, and I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure Iowa's one of them that I know. because it's solar panels are very popular in Iowa, which you really wouldn't think, but Iowa has a state law that the power company is required to pay the homeowner the same price as what you buy it through the meter, what you pump back in. Well, that doesn't count all the distribution costs and all that. So the person with solar panels is getting a premium for the electricity they're producing, even when it's not needed. So all the other residents of Iowa are paying that person's electric bill, basically.
Yeah, that's what I
Driving the
mean.
rates up.
Right. There's so many problems with the implementation. I'm not even talking about the problems with each technology. We can figure those out, and we'll either figure out that they're better or they're not, and financially, that's how it should happen. But nobody's even paying attention. I mean, it's so hard to get any of these numbers. Like you said, we don't know what a hydrogen forklift costs to operate. Try to find some of this data. It's not easy. I look for this kind of stuff all the time. I'm not against the technologies. I'm not against exploring them. I just want all government money out of it, all of it.
That's why when you said earlier, we gotta, instead of talking about hydrogen or electric or diesel or we should just talk about energy cost and per mile, in the truck. And so that we first need to figure out the difference between pure buying electric battery, how much electricity it costs, and then the conversion from hydrogen fuel cell to electricity, and if that would actually save you any money there. But either way, they both, for every number I'm seeing, are nowhere near what diesel is.
That's it. It's not even
Diesel
close.
is still way cheaper.
Right. Not even
than all
close.
of it put together.
Yep, exactly.
And
Yeah, look,
we know for a fact that
had the cost been double, I would have been freaked out. Double is horrendous. You can't double the biggest cost in an industry and think, and an industry that touches everything else we buy. We have to remember that. We want to brag that, if we stop, you don't get anything. I get that. That also means our costs get passed on to everybody for everything. And our biggest problem right now in our economy is inflation. Had the cost been double, I would have freaked out. Except the cost is like 36 cents to $5 a mile. What's the multiple on that? I can't even do the math in my head.
Well, even if you do more
10,
of an average
50,
of
it's
50 cents a mile on diesel, then it's 10 times.
Exactly. 10 times. Our single biggest cost in trucking, and you want to increase it 10 times?
And then you had Steve Crone called, and he's at, what did he say, 26 or 28 cents?
I think so. On a 24-year-old truck.
He's half of the average,
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. So that's why I'm.
Yeah, I don't get it either. I mean, I'm all for it all being here too, but I just don't see it going mainstream anytime soon.
So
and especially the automobile side, look at all the big three or big five, whatever they are now, including Toyota and them, that they're not pushing the EVs as much as they were 2 years ago.
No, but
it's not working out for them.
That's why I'm talking about it now, because we have an election coming up. And I'm usually not like a single issue kind of voter. And I'll be completely clear, even if the electric vehicle wasn't an issue, I'd still be voting the same way for 100 other reasons. But if you want a single issue to vote on, this one could be it.
And actually, Tesla's the only company that has ever turned a profit in the EV world.
Right.
So my guess would be the second largest,
now,
at least started from scratch, is Rivian.
Yeah, and I'm seeing a lot of those. But I want to go back to Tesla, because I don't just want to brag about Tesla. Here's what I'd like to know for sure. And again, fact-checking this stuff is difficult. How much government money has Tesla really received over the years? I don't know. But whatever it is, it shouldn't have happened.
It's twofold because Tesla themselves got grants and
Right.
money directly
And-
from the government, and then I don't know what's changed on this, with him arguing with the Biden administration, but then there was the
Tax credits.
incentives for the individual that bought the vehicle
Right.
at the sale point. too.
Right. So
There's all kinds of subsidies that have gone into Tesla.
as much as I'd like to brag about Tesla and their success, I can't. It's artificial. We don't know that they would have succeeded like this without all the. Clearly, they wouldn't be where they are now without those. They may still have been a company.
No.
It may have been a viable company. Elon's a pretty sharp guy. He's got multiple big companies doing really big things. But as far as Tesla goes, to me, that's a false success story. It took government money to get them to where they are today, and that should have never happened.
That's where I'd compare like Rivian as a better comparison because I don't know enough to say how much other stuff Tesla's into under the Tesla name. I mean, we know they're selling batteries and roof panels and all kinds of other things. But Rivian's numbers, they're so unprofitable, running so far in the red that they should have went out of business already, but investors are investing in the future of electric vehicles. That's the only thing keeping them going is investor money that they're pissing away every month in their corporate numbers.
Yeah, I know. All right. So I had a whole big thing I was going to do on the election this week. I do this a lot. In my head, I think, I'm going to talk politics and I have all these great ideas. And then I get on the air and I'm like, most people just don't want to hear this. As interested as I might be in the election and what's going on in politics, I know enough to know that the people who want to hear this on the show are a minority. And it frustrates me. And that's why I started the show, The Pit, so that people would know, look, if you don't like politics, just don't listen to this segment because it's all it's going to be about. The problem is I have a hard time with that show because it ultimately keeps becoming either a monologue with just me talking, or it's a monologue and then everybody who calls agrees with me. And at that point, I kind of think, why would I waste my time on the show? The people I'm talking to already know this and they already agree with me. So why would I bother doing this? I'm not impacting anything. But then I get frustrated because I like talking about it and I'm interested in it. So it's a struggle. I was, just going to make so many comparisons about how awful this administration has been. I mean, there's so many reasons why our country is an absolute dumpster fire right now. But I don't think it matters. I don't think I could influence one person.
Well, like you said, I don't know who out here can be undecided.
That's kind of the point, right?
Who they're going to vote for. I get there's probably people undecided if they're going to vote or not. And I understand
that could be right.
There's another funny, TikTok video like thing going around too. It's of the old Muppet Show. Or no, it wasn't. It's Dinosaurs.
Oh yeah.
Cartoon back in the 80s. And they actually had that where an egotistical guy that is just ranting and raving on stage. They're cartoons. It's a dinosaur,
right?
And then the other guy is a brain dead ignoramus. That's exactly what we're dealing with.
Oh man. There's just so many things wrong with this, and so many things that don't make sense or we can't explain. And I'm just, I can't look away. I keep saying, look, I'm just going to ignore it. I can't, I can vote. Who knows if that even matters anymore? Maybe I could convince somebody. And then I say, look, I'm just going to ignore it. There's so many things I could be working on. It's like I can't stop though. I can't look away because this stuff does matter. The frustrating thing is like it feels like we no longer have any control.
So another just interesting thing about politics, Robert Kennedy Jr. Do you want to know one of the people he really tried hard to get to run as his VP that ended up turning him down?
Who?
Mike Rowe.
Yeah, I could see why Mike Rowe would turn him down.
Yeah.
And
you know, he's involved in the whole, he's kind of on the anti-vax move too. Not really big, but he says, you know, everybody should make their own decision. It shouldn't be, nothing should be forced.
Correct.
It should be free choice.
You know,
which I completely agree with. And
Kennedy is one of those candidates where there are some things I so completely agree with him on, but then there are others that are absolute no-goes for me. I don't care how many things you do right. If you're for this, you and I can't get along. And EVs are one of them. He's big on the EV push.
Yep.
Huge.
You know,
so he's kind of a conundrum for me. There's some things I really, really agree with him on, vaccines being one, overall health in our country and what Big Pharma has done and what Big Food has done. I can completely get on board with him on that. But there are way too many other topics that there's just no way I could agree with him on.
well, yeah, and he's got, I mean, people think he's a nut job, whether you're on the left or the right.
Right.
They kind of view him as a nut job on 50% of the stuff he talks about. It's the opposite 50%, but it's
exactly.
You know, both
he's
the two-party system. He's never going to get traction.
He's such a weird mix that I don't. You know, we can put a label on almost everybody politically, and it doesn't mean you're 100% anything. But and there's some pretty quick, simple tests online you can take. And if you just answer the questions honestly, they'll tell you kind of what party you most align with. Nobody's 100% on anything. I clearly most align with libertarians, which sucks because they never get elected to anything. But you can see why. You could look at the things I believe in almost across the board and figure out that really is my political thought process. We all know people who are just ultra conservative across the board. We know people who are ultra liberal across the board. We know there are independents who kind of try to stay in the middle of everything. I don't know what label to put on Kennedy. I don't think there is a label. His views are kind of odd if you put them all together. I mean, each one you can look at and go, oh yeah, he's pretty conservative here. Oh, he's really liberal there. You start to think maybe libertarian. But he's not even close to a libertarian. I don't know what label I would put on him.
Yeah. And yeah, the other side of when people were taking him more seriously, when he was in the news more, or maybe he still is, I just don't see it anymore, but predictions he was going to be successful just because of his name.
Yeah. Well, that
Most
didn't.
of his family has come out and said they do not support him. So
yeah, that did not play out well at all. Right.
No, his family name is not standing behind him.
Exactly. Yeah, that couldn't have been further from the truth that his name was going to help him. The only thing it does is at least gives him recognition. But then as soon as you start reading and you find out his whole family's against him, then if you were Kennedy fans, you're not going to be a fan of him.
Yep. So.
And I'll even make this statement. I'll even make this statement. I would love to see a John Kennedy again. He'd almost be a conservative today.
Oh yeah. Well, he would be a conservative.
Yeah.
Today. Yeah.
Or maybe a libertarian.
You go back to the early '60s.
Maybe he was kind of a libertarian.
Party and well, I recommend anybody, whether YouTube or even just on Audible or wherever podcasts, I've listened to old speeches from Reagan and all the way back to Kennedy.
Yeah.
You go listen to Kennedy's speeches today, you'd swear he's a Republican
Or a libertarian even.
by the words he uses
Right.
and the way he talks.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
I know.
So one last comment about Mike Rowe, because I listen to his podcast regularly, and other people you've said get on this selling gold thing and how bad that irks you.
Right.
Well, Mike Rowe, he takes on a lot of sponsors, and his newest one is a gold company. And it drove me nuts at first, but like the third or fourth time I actually listened to everything he said, at least he's honest in the beginning and says, I can't say if gold is a good or bad investment for you, but this is the company I have partnered with to learn more about it. So he is, pushing the company, and
that
he says himself he's bought some, but
yeah, like I
still,
said,
it irks me the wrong way, but at least he
was honest about it. It's almost like my little faux pas with relay payments. I should have just maybe worked with them in the background to educate myself on this before I brought them up. Bringing them on the air always sounds like an endorsement. Now, when you partner with the company, that is absolutely an endorsement. I mean, I did not partner with relay payments. They are not part of anything we do. We just, I wish I wouldn't have brought them on the air till I would have done more work. But that kind of disappoints me that he's saying, well, I'm just going to bring them on to learn more. Go learn more without endorsing them then. And then if you agree with it and it's your show, well, okay, bring them on. It might change my thoughts about certain things, but I don't like the idea of I'm not really sure about this and I'm going to partner with him to figure it out, because people do listen to his advice. Really listen to his advice. He's built a real following. He influences a lot of people. I just see that as a mistake.
Yeah, let me rephrase that. Maybe I said it wrong. So he himself did decide to do it. But what he says is, I can't tell you if it's a good idea for you or not. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. So he's kind of putting a disclaimer there. Not saying he's recommending it, but here's the company he used.
That's recommending it. That
Well, yeah, it is.
Let me try to. I don't even know if I can come up with an analogy of something I do in my own personal life, but don't really endorse. Well, here's one. This one might be a little outrageous. People know I smoke cannabis. I grow it. I make my own edibles. That's
what I was thinking of. Maybe talk about cannabis.
Yeah, and I talk about
but
it.
You do endorse it.
I talk about it, but I don't bring companies on and partner with them. And I wouldn't, even if it were legal for truck drivers. It's just not something that it's not something that matters enough, for one thing, and it's not something I want to tell anybody else whether they should do or not. It doesn't matter. You can live a really good life with or without it. It's not one of those important issues. Whether or not you invest in gold is, in my opinion, probably not going to be life-changing in either direction unless you go crazy with it, and then it's probably going to turn out bad. I have several reasons why I think precious metals are just bad investments. One of them is just the cost. We talk about cost and how much that matters, right? When we get down to, didn't you and I just figure this out recently? That percentage points matter. Tiny percentage points in cost of investment matter. If I buy this fund, I have to pay this much as an expense. But if I buy this fund, I can, and we used to ignore them because I'm looking at it going like, it's a 1/10 of a percentage point. But we figured out that it matters in investing. I don't know of many investments that are more expensive to buy and sell than precious metals.
Yeah, so my opinion and the research I've done it, the only thing gold protects you against is inflation. Basically, it follows inflation. So an ounce of gold is still worth the same amount of money adjusted for inflation as it was 100 years ago. It's gone up equal to inflation. Anything above inflation, so you're just saying flat is all you're doing. you have to be able to beat inflation to actually have growth in your investment. So it
Yeah.
would be a hedge against the American dollar collapsing, but unless you're going to take your gold and go to a different country that also doesn't collapse when the American dollar collapses, which is in my opinion, if the American economy and dollar collapsed, I think the whole world is not going to be a happy place.
That's kind of my take on this is if you look at most of the cases where you could make an argument for gold or precious metals, they're all extreme. And if it happens, everything changes, and our predictions will probably be wrong anyway. So I don't understand of the idea of taking the risk on a very volatile commodity and a very expensive commodity to invest in. I've never heard a good argument why I should do it.
Yep. Yeah, like you say, I mean, when we go to the bartering system is basically what we're talking about. Bartering for food and fuel and bullets is going to be your top commodities.
Right.
To have to exchange with people, because
so
the gold bar isn't going to get you far.
No, it really doesn't. And my point is, if you are really concerned about worst case scenario, and that's where precious metals seem to have somewhat of an argument in a really bad case scenario. Well, if that's the case, I'm just going to invest in the commodities themselves. Then I don't even have to barter.
Yeah, I hear you.
If
the long-term goal of living in the woods and
exactly
having plenty of bullets and a food stock, and maybe even if once I get out of trucking, having a few animals around again, so you always got something to butcher.
You know, it was kind of funny.
I
was out at the homestead over the weekend, and I have the coach out there now. So I kind of have the coach parked in kind of the edge of the field, which is really close to the house anyway. And I posted the other night, I was just falling asleep, and right next to my head in the coach is a window. It's part of the slide, and there's a window out there, so I can just look right outside laying in bed. I just have to turn my head. And I heard this noise. It actually woke me up. There was a herd of elk coming through the yard, and they were maybe 30 feet from the window. And the next morning, they woke me up again coming back through. They're pretty noisy sometimes. And I met one of my, I guess you could call him a neighbor. We don't really have neighbors out there, but he owns some land that's actually adjacent to mine. And I met the guy, really nice guy, by the way. He's going to be able to help me with a lot of stuff. But we got talking about a lot of things. And you know me, I don't give nutritional advice unless I'm asked. Out of the blue, I don't even remember why, he mentioned he was diabetic. And I said, look, I don't give advice on nutrition, but I do a lot of this. And if you ever want help, I can help. And he said, oh man, tell me whatever you want. I'll take your advice. I'm so sick of doctors and drugs, and everybody's telling me something. And he said, I'll listen. And I said, all right. I started talking about carnivore and eating more meat. And he's like, oh, really? That's easy. He says, I love elk and deer. I hunt all the time. And I've never been elk hunting. And my deer hunting was pretty limited. It was in Ohio with a shotgun, because that's all that's legal in Ohio. So it's a very different way of, kind of deer, big game hunting. It's close in, shotguns. So I want to go elk hunting this year. And I was going to hire a guide. I could probably go figure this out. It's not that complicated, but I thought, why not just get a good guide and really learn something the right way? So when he mentioned this, I said, hey, one of the things you could do with all the hunting you do, I said, are you canning your meat? And he said, no. He said, I know I should be. I just don't know how, and I don't have time. I said, look, I'll make you a deal. You teach me how to elk hunt this fall, and I'll teach you how to can it all. We'll just do it all together. And he looked at me and he said, I'll take that deal. He said, but how hard is it to elk hunt? He said, you could roll over in bed and shoot one in your yard. I'm like, yeah, I know I could, but that doesn't seem right. It just, I want to actually go, something that's a little challenging. But I thought that was kind of funny because he's right. I mean, I could take, one a week in my yard if I wanted.
Yeah, you want to learn some of the
Yeah, I
tricks.
want to actually learn how to
If
go
it
out.
wasn't so easy.
Yeah, right.
If you had to.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to learn how how do you
Yeah.
really go do this? And so that's my plan for the fall. And then I know how to fish, but I'm not really good at it, and I don't know much about it. We've got a river right nearby that supposedly has an awful lot of steelhead in it, so I want to find somebody to teach me how to steelhead fish too. It's just easier to find somebody that's really good at something and let them teach me. I can research, I can read, but I also know that there's a lot of value in somebody else's ideas and opinions.
Yeah, hands-on is always way
Exactly.
better.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
the right teacher.
With the right teacher, correct. Yeah. And I've hired some guides before, fishing guides that I'm not all that impressed with. I know enough to be able to tell the difference between somebody who really knows what they're talking about and somebody who doesn't.
Yeah.
All right, Matt, got to move along. I just looked at the clock. In fact, I need to turn off the phones. Oh, thank you, Angie. She already did. I have such a great team. Let's go to Montana. Mike, welcome to the program.
Oh, hey, Kevin. Happy Monday. Now it's North Dakota.
Oh, well, there you go. You've been on hold a while.
Good show. Yeah. A couple comments. The guy that wants to start trucking at 59?
Yeah.
That's what I did 5 years ago. And I did your course, Stop Holding the Steering Wheel or something it was.
Right.
And you mailed me a bunch of books and CDs, and that was priceless.
So
And,
just so everybody knows.
I never go back to being a company guy.
Yeah, that course is now a part of the CMC. That is the beginning of the CMC, is everything in that course. And that never used to be. I used to try to tell people, look, if you're coming to the CMC and you're doing it to become an owner operator, you should really take this course first. Well, then it was like I was trying to sell people two things. Well, now we just integrated all that material into the CMC. The reason we couldn't before, it wasn't just because I wanted to charge people for two things. I just didn't have time. In a 5-day CMC, I had to leave a lot of stuff out. 5 days may seem like a long time. And if you've been to a CMC, they were long, long days. It was still not enough. That's why we created this hybrid where, we have live and then we have all year, but all of that material that you went through is now in the CMC.
Well, that was priceless. Without your advice, your program, I don't think I'd be near as successful as I am today. And
Mike,
never go back.
Let me ask you this, because I just kind of mentioned, if I'm going to learn how to elk hunt, I'm going to go pay somebody that's really good at it to teach me. If I'm going to learn how to fish or fly fish or whatever, I'm going to pay somebody that's really good at to teach me. Here's one of the things I've heard about the CMC over the years, and in some ways, I guess it's kind of true. People have said, why would I pay you $1,000 for this? I could Google it all.
Yeah.
Try it.
Probably could Google a lot of it, huh?
Try it, though. Because here's what happens, and this is what I run across if I try to learn about elk hunting, or something I know almost nothing about. How do I know when I Google it what's right and what's wrong?
Oh, true that.
How do I know?
Get lost in the weeds.
How do I know what's more important? If I Google something about being an owner-operator and one article says, well, you absolutely need to make sure you're getting $2.87 a mile. Well, okay. Now I go out to do that in real world and I can't. Now what do I do? Even if I get good advice, what if I don't figure it out in the right order? Wasn't there a very specific order in the program, Stop Holding the Steering Wheel? I even talk about it in the program. This is in a specific order. This is how you should do these things. You can't Google that.
Yeah. And everybody wants to skip to how to buy the right truck.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, they don't want to go through all that other stuff. Or you might Google it. Somebody might go, oh, you should never, ever buy a Volvo truck. That's why the question why is so important. Because then the answer might be, oh, well, they're heavy.
I have a Volvo truck, and I would disagree with that.
I know, that's what I mean. But I've heard people say, oh, well, you shouldn't buy them because they're heavy. Well, first off, I don't even know if that's true anymore because I don't pay attention to truck weight anymore because it's not much of a factor unless I am in a very, very weight sensitive operation. And if I am, I'm going to have to do a whole lot more homework other than just don't buy a Volvo. I mean, what do I buy then? How do I spec it to make it really light? Yeah, exactly.
Teeny little sleeper, 4x2.
Yeah, right.
What that would be called? No, 2x6 or whatever. Yeah,
now you were
anyway.
You were correct.
Yeah,
it's a 4x2.
And now the one thing you're wrong about here, I got California AB5. California kicked me out of AB5. Kicked me out of California because of AB5, and they really had my best interest in heart, Kevin. They really were protecting me because now I'm saving about $15,000 a year in taxes.
Yeah.
They just didn't want my money.
You mean,
I guess is the best I can figure.
You mean you didn't?
You know what, quickly on that point. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say you didn't like the idea of paying California a whole bunch of money to tell you how you could work or not.
You know what? At the time, I didn't really mind. I lived in California, so what am I going to do? And then they passed a law, and I was like, okay, fine, I'll take my money and go somewhere else. Thank you very much.
Good.
But the whole point, the point on this is, all these other guys out there, it's never going to happen.
Uh-oh. Mike?
We'd all be screwed.
Oh, you're back. Okay, we lost you for a bit there.
Oh, well, I was rambling about AB5 probably. And it could go federal, so nobody should lay back on their haunches. It happened to me. Anyway.
Not only could it,
go ahead.
we have a new ruling, the Department of Labor ruling, and people will scream at me, it's not AB5. I know it's not, but they have the exact same rule in here that they have in AB5, and they can use it any way they want to. That's already in effect. Now, we have more laws coming that make it even worse at the federal level. So it's not a matter of, oh, someday it could be it already is at the federal level. We have to fight it.
Yeah, we all have to get together on that. And we also need those speed limiters. So all of us guys trying to drive slow aren't getting the finger being passed up all the time, right?
No,
hey,
I'll
I called. I got this Volvo.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I got this Volvo problem, and it's pretty common, I think, but I can't ever seem to get a square answer out of anybody, especially the Volvo dealer. Engine brake. When I'm in the third stage of the engine brake, between 14, 1600 RPMs, you get this vicious shaking. And yes, every time I do an overhead, they say, yeah, we got to Loctite these things back down and blah, blah, blah. And then 2 months later, same thing. Is there a fix to this? Did I lose you?
No, I just,
Oh, are you there?
Yeah, I don't know enough to help you with this one. This would be a Joel question.
Yeah, I understand. It's like it's almost like injector cups, but it relates to I think it's the rockers on the.
Is this
exhaust brake.
the exhaust plungers?
And exact plunger.
Yeah.
And
Joel's talked about it a lot, and
upgrade.
It's just a matter of getting it done.
He's on Facebook, right?
He is, and he's and X both, and he's really responsive. So, I mean, you could probably get an answer from him in the next day or two at most, and we don't even have a show this Friday, so.
Well, the problem is I've been waiting for Facebook to go away for 15 years.
Yeah.
and it still hasn't.
I made it go away. Face what?
Well, right. Yeah, face who?
Yeah, I know I have a page on there somewhere,
All
but
right, Kevin. Well,
even my own wife sent me a link. I think it was yesterday or the day before to look at something, and I went to open up the link, and it's Facebook. I'm like, I can't even log in anymore. Well, I've never been able to log into Facebook from my phone.
yeah,
I
I can't
never
either.
ever had it on my phone. And I was trying, and I said, look, I can't even log in anymore, and I don't want to.
Yeah.
Even though
Oh,
right
the
now,
guy you were talking, the flatbed van guy.
right now I am, well, I was live. My camera keeps shutting off today. I just checked again. I got to figure out why this keeps happening. I was going to say I'm live on Facebook, but right now only my audio was. There we go. All right, go ahead.
Maybe they heard you talking bad. Huh?
It could be. Could be. Now they're hacking my camera.
You got censored.
Yeah.
They're waiting for you to slip a finger up or something. Maybe we gotta stop this before it starts.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, you know the guy with the fuel mileage and the van and the flatbed you
Yeah,
talked to earlier
yeah.
today. You did all this fancy stuff and this and that and all great and that, and then right at the end of the call comes the rub. The test was done at 55 miles an hour.
Why is that a rub?
So, how much money do you? Well, in that, spend this to get this, and I got this out of this, and now I'm at 9.8. But then comes the fact that, well, I got this by going 55. So save your money, drive slower, you'll make more money instantly, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a big one. No doubt. Now I see where you're going. Right. Slowing down is our most cost-effective
55
way.
is a big
Yeah,
deal.
absolutely. Most cost-effective way to improve fuel economy is slow down. It just is. Now, we try to put some nuance into this, and I've always said that how much you slow down is a variable. There is no set number. I have never said you should drive 55 forever.
Right.
But I did give an example of in my operation why driving 57 forever made total sense. There was no reason for me not to do it. It always worked out better in my operation. But in an over-the-road van operation, we were talking when rates were high, we were talking about driving faster, significantly faster at times. And it could make some sense. The problem is now we get down to nuance and complication, and every situation is different. And how do you get that across to people and get them to understand it enough that they can figure this out on their own? If I have to give advice to somebody about speed without being able to explain all the nuance and making sure they understand it all, my advice will always be slow down. Always.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're not getting $10 a mile consistently,
Right.
like we did, running certain loads, $10 a mile. Yeah, I'm going to run hard.
Right.
So I'm going to burn an extra $1 in fuel. I'm going to earn whatever.
Here's the thing you have to remember too.
I've noticed,
Hey,
but I have.
when I give advice, I have to understand the mindset of the people I'm giving advice to. And the mindset of truck drivers across the board is drive faster. That is everybody's mindset. It's across the board. It's prevalent. It's rampant. Everybody wants a reason to drive faster. Nobody wants to slow down. Now, if I can convince them that they'll make more money, and I've done that over the years, I've gotten a lot of people to slow down, but I have to work hard at it. Everybody's first inclination is they all want to drive faster.
Yeah. It's, I've noticed when I have to push it hard, it seriously affects, not only fuel, but everything. Tires, your DEF mileage goes way down.
Stress levels.
When you push it.
Stress levels go way up.
Your brakes, because you catch up on people going slower.
That's right. Oh,
Your blinker fluid.
Joel is probably I have mentioned maintenance costs over the years. I had a hard time quantifying them. When you're dealing with a lot of individuals, which is what I deal with, it's harder to quantify some of this data. Joel had access to all the fleet records from his family fleet. And he was the one that convinced me. And he said, Kevin, I know you talk about maintenance costs, but I don't think even you understand how much it is. And when you slow down, those maintenance costs go down significantly, more than I ever thought.
Sure. Yeah, it's easy to see just in your gauges.
Yeah.
Your axle temperature goes
Yep.
down. Slow down 5 miles an hour, axle temperature.
Tire temperatures. Yeah, absolutely.
Coolant,
Nope.
everything goes down. It's all better.
Yep.
Tire pressure, heat.
Good stuff, Mike.
Yeah.
Gotta cut you loose because I got 2 more calls, and I'm coming up at the end of the show here. Let's go to Texas. Paul, what's on your mind?
Howdy. Well, I've got a list now. So you said before that you didn't do your homework on last week's guest.
Yeah.
That's how I got through my school life.
Well, me too. I've
It
talked
worked
about
for me.
that. But, technically
Yeah.
I said I never did the homework, but in a sense I did, because while the teacher was up in front of the class blabbing about whatever they were blabbing about, I was just reading the chapter. And that's all the homework I need. I mean, I'm pretty good at reading and comprehending, and that's what I do. I didn't even bother to read the chapter this time.
You know, I remember my first day at school. I remember the last day at school. I remember a formula in science: work equals force times distance, and I've been good with everything. Yeah.
There you go.
So today I witnessed a Tesla. I'm pretty sure it may have taken over the driving. So I'm running fast today. I'm running 64 in Texas. So that's fast for me. So this lady passes me, and she passed the car that was in front of me, and then she decided, I need that exit, and she took it.
Oh boy.
And there was smoke coming off the tires because she was getting sideways like she's setting up for Tokyo Drift. Well, I've never seen the car slow down and get straight, but I'm pretty sure she had the shit scared out of her because she was on the frontage road and she slowed way down. But I'm pretty sure that Tesla just took over because there ain't no way, a very slim chance that it was her driving.
I'm sure. My scariest close call in a truck was a case like this, and I can almost feel what I felt when it happened. I had just left our terminal in Orlando. It was probably midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. I was heading to like Fort Myers or somewhere. I was doing one of the overnights. I've got a set of doubles in Orlando on I-5, and I was down on the south side where it's 4 lanes.
4, you mean?
Oh yeah, not 5, 4. You're right. I'm on the West Coast now.
Yep.
Yeah, 4 going through Orlando, and on the south side it's 4 lanes for a while.
Yep.
And I'm in the second lane from the left because everybody can get off. There's still a lane to pass me. There's hardly any traffic anyway. It's midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm there because I know that both those 2 right lanes are dropping off soon. And I don't want to have to change lanes if I don't have to. So I'm in this lane. This car comes flying by me on the left and realizes they're about to miss their exit. And they cut me off, and I had to hit the brakes hard. And by the time I looked in my mirror to see what was happening, I couldn't see any marker lights on my trailers. I had no idea what direction either one of my trailers was pointing in because I couldn't see any of the marker lights. And my biggest fear was my back trailer is probably in one of the other lanes, and did I just hit somebody with it? And then my next fear is I've been out on rescue efforts to go pick up that back trailer when it flips over. And many times the tractor and the front trailer will keep going down the road. The back trailer gets ripped right off and flipped over.
Yeah, the tire one.
Yeah. It's even worse. I used to pull triples on the Ohio Turnpike. That last trailer back there can flip just because you changed lanes too fast. So I really thought I was going to crash, lose a trailer, hit somebody else with a trailer. That was probably my worst close call ever.
So you made a comment about Hawaii. I can't remember what it was, but something about 49 states.
Well, I was talking about Alaska.
Why,
and then I said we don't do a whole lot of trucking in Hawaii, right?
Yeah, well, there's the Hawaiian Islands. There's about 1.5 million people. I imagine most of the stuff they got goes over there by boat, so they got to be doing some trucking.
Yeah, but it's all straight trucks. They don't really do it. Yeah.
Did you ever wonder why they have interstates? Because they don't connect with any other states.
Well, that's true. They're really not interstates. That's a good point. I never thought about that.
So then I got two more things.
All right.
Independent contractors, usually everyone wants to be one till they go broke.
Which is fine.
And that's...
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Me too. So, but, I'm an independent contractor. And then as soon as it goes bad, they screwed me. It's all their fault.
Well, and then they don't really want to be independent anymore. They're screaming for the government to help them and protect them, and that's how we get laws like this.
Or they're going to Ohio to be a class action lawsuit or something.
Right, and that's how we end up with laws like this.
Yeah. And the guy that's looking to buy his first truck at 59, if he does it for 10 years and can net $100,000, that's $1 million.
Exactly.
If he pushes out to 75, that's $1.5 million.
You bring up a good point. Not only can I help him get started, we'll put $1 million in his retirement account before he finishes.
Yeah.
It won't even be that hard.
He'll be sick for the rest of it.
Right.
Yeah, and if he's going to do the hard work and be successful, he's probably going to listen to you. I don't know what his health condition is, but get on board with that and he'll be able to spend the money as well.
Yeah, we'll help him with the health side of it too. I mean, think about this. One of the biggest trends in the last couple of years, and then COVID made it accelerate even faster, this whole idea of I want to live in a van down by the river. They're paying $200,000 for some of those vans. They're not cheap.
Yeah.
Here's a case where he kind of has the same lifestyle. He's living in a very small space with very little expense and getting paid to do it.
Yeah, well, if he does it right, maybe his second truck, he can step up to a big sleeper with the shower and the toilet and all the conveniences, and then all good.
And
I'll let you get to the last man.
And we'll put a motorcycle on the back of it if he wants to run around and go see stuff. Let's go to the final call of the day. Fred, you get the last word today.
Hey, Kevin. Good morning to you.
I'm not sure why I'm giving you the privilege of having the last word, since you ghost me most of the time these days.
Oh, I never ghost you. I'm going to get back on, but hey, maybe we should open up the pit again for the last couple months of the election.
It might be fun.
I'll be a regular with that. We can set it up.
Hey, Fred, if I can figure out a place to fit it in the schedule, I'd want you to be my co-host.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, it might be fun.
But I'll tell you, I was actually on a podcast with Hunter and Robert, the Logistics Lounge, and Gord was on there. He had an economist on his show.
I know this guy.
I guess you just did an article with him, right? He did an article on you.
Who?
Or helped him with an article.
Who?
Gord.
Oh, we talked. And there's another topic I want to talk to you about on this issue too. So, look, there are a lot of people on X that I respect, and I think you know that. We have a good group there. Yeah. Doesn't mean we all agree on things. And a couple of things are coming up that I strongly disagree with some people on, people that I really respect. And I am struggling with how to deal with it. Should I ignore it? Should I call them out? I talked a little bit earlier about the health thing, and I want to come back to that in a second. But because Gord kind of got involved. It wasn't Gord originally, but he kind of jumped in too. So him and I, and it's all good so far. And I want to make sure it stays that way. I don't want this to turn into a big pissing match just because we disagree on things. There are people, and you know it, there are people I will fight with all day long because there's so few things I agree with them on, and I don't respect what they do. right? I will fight
Right.
with those people
Right.
all day. People like Gord, Lombard, I respect those guys. They've got a lot of good opinions. They're doing a lot of good things for the trucking industry. But there are some things coming up that I'm just going to have to stand my ground and say, look, I completely disagree with this. And on the health side, I can't help but call them out. And I'm going to, but I want to try to temper it so it doesn't become a big pissing match. And in this one, the guy that they had on, I read the book, and I couldn't disagree with him more. His whole point, it's not that I disagree with everything he writes. Trucks have become sweatshops on wheels. That was another book. That was actually the title of a book that was almost the same thing as this one. But they always point to the Motor Carrier Act of 1980 as the problem. It's not. And if you think it's the problem, then your solution is to go back to it. That I can't disagree with something more than that. That is the government.
That Steve guy, right?
Right.
That was Steve?
Right.
Whatever his last name is?
Yeah, his take on this is that the Motor Carrier Act of 1980 created this problem. Yes and no. It did. I will agree with you.
Right.
But the problem is it turned it into a free market the way it should be. Now, here's what I think the real problem is. The real problem is our immigration policy. It's not the Motor Carrier Act of 1980. That just made trucking a free market the way it should be. We should never want to go back to that. But I do understand that we've driven wages down low in this industry, although if you look around today, I'm not so sure that's really true anymore. There are people making very little money, but
it's true for certain things, right? Because
you could easily be taken advantage of if you are a foreigner, and you might be out there making 40 cents a mile. But if you are a reasonably good driver with some common sense, you should be making 80 cents to $1 a mile these days. And at that point, I would no longer call that slave wages. For somebody who doesn't need a high school education, that's a hell of a good job. So I would even argue that the pay has changed a little bit since COVID to the positive, but I never, ever want to go back to the Motor Carrier Act of 1980. You will never convince me that we should. Do we have a problem of it's too easy to hire really cheap drivers in this country? Yeah, I think so. I don't know what the solution is to it because I don't think about it all that much because that's not my market.
Right.
But I do know that my market would be so horrendously negatively impacted by going back to the Motor Carrier Act of 1980. I would fight it tooth and nail.
Right. So here's my take on a lot of this stuff, right? Because everyone's a conservative or libertarian until they disagree with something, then they become a complete leftist Democrat.
This is a good case of that, right?
Yeah, this is a very good case of that, right? So I went back and forth with Gord because I only heard about this guy this morning, actually, just through peripheral. So I don't know this guy. I don't know if I should buy his book now that you already kind of vetted it out. And
you should.
I will. I'll probably get it on Kindle. But so, I mean, I do want to see what he, and he was on, I didn't catch the whole thing because I was unloading in Midland this morning. So I didn't catch the whole show. But I did get on talking to Gord and Hunter and Justin was on there, Justin Martin. These guys are all great guys. I don't know Gord. But, it seems that when I was talking to him, he was agreeing with me all of a sudden, and he was trying to preface Steve's premise as a compliment to you, not that he's calling. And I'm saying to myself, well, if he's a compliment to Kevin, then how do I have people like Don Ricardo, right? You know who that is, right?
Oh, yeah.
Promoting this guy, right? So there has to be something else there. If you have the guy who got fired by the union promoting him, he was too union, right?
Somebody is completely misunderstanding something if they think this guy's a compliment to me. Seriously.
Right. Right. No, and that's how Gord was parsing this morning to me, right? And I'm like, well, I mean, I've had plenty of conversations with Kevin. Kevin and I have had a similar trajectory in this business. We started out in a trucking family with no money, and we've made a lot of expensive mistakes, but we persevered through this, right? So I'm a very good gauge on when I smell someone who's looking for government solutions and when I'm when I'm not. And I see this, the way he was talking about this government solutions. Well, yeah, there is government solutions. Get the hell out of trucking government. Right. That's the solution here.
His solutions are governments and unions.
Yeah. Yeah. See, that's what I kind of thought. But of course, I never got on the stage to have a question and answer with him. And I would never be confrontational to the guy. I mean, I'm not that guy, right? I want to have a dialogue.
That's kind of my struggle right now. I have no problem just totally destroying somebody I don't respect. It's easy. I enjoy it. I am the total opposite when it comes to somebody I do respect, and I respect them for the right reasons. Let's switch to the health thing, because I think you and I are in total agreement on the whole employment, governments, independent contractors, unions, the health thing.
Yeah.
I've been watching, Lombard for a while now since I've been on X. Totally impressed. The guy on fitness for drivers, fantastic. You should follow him. He's out there doing the hard work. He helps people with this. I respect him tremendously for that. And when I saw him post a product endorsing it, and it was total garbage, I mean, it's got sucralose in it.
The drink?
Well, there was one earlier. There was one last week that was also sweetened with sucralose and had some garbage in it. And I said, look, this is a neurotoxin. And he goes and looks up the typical bullshit you'll find online. Oh, well, you'd have to drink 5,000 cans of it a day before it becomes a neurotoxin. No, that's not true. That's total food industry bullshit. It is a chemical that was designed as an insecticide originally. That's what sucralose is.
Yeah.
And then they realized it was sweet, and they put it in food. He's under the impression that this stuff is actually tested. It's not. We have 80,000 chemicals in our food and personal care and cleaning supplies now. 80,000 chemicals. 1% of them have been tested. People are under the impression that you can't put something into a food until it's tested and proven to be safe. It's absolutely not true. It's the opposite. You can't take it out of the food supply once it's in there unless you can absolutely prove that it's unsafe. And who's going to spend the money to do that? Nobody. You can't afford it.
Yeah,
so I kind of called out the drink he posted last week. And here's the other thing. It was 200 milligrams of caffeine with a sucralose kicker. Come on. That is no way healthy for a human body. It's not even close to the arena of being healthy. Here you are trying to help people get fit. I love that. But you are talking about something that I can clearly see you know nothing about. Nutrition. He's using the same old tired rules that everybody uses. He posted today, the only way to gain weight, calories in, calories out. That has been debunked so many times. So now he puts up this other product, and the first ingredient is filtered low-fat milk. So it's been homogenized, it's been pasteurized, and it's been filtered to pull out some of the carbs and the fat. That is an ultra-processed food. Human beings do not thrive on ultra-processed food. And it has sucralose. And it has carrageenan, which will destroy your digestive tract. And it has 2 or 3 different kind of gums. And it's a protein drink. Who the hell needs a protein drink? Protein is the easiest macro to get in the world. You should be getting plenty of it in your diet. So I think you can tell.
I left yesterday, I surveyed a ribeye steak, and I ate it this morning while I was sitting unloading.
Exactly. I think you can tell I'm pretty passionate about this, but I don't want to turn it into a pissing match with these guys either, because I do respect what they're doing.
Well, I mean, I would love. See, this is where I think a discussion, because you lose so much on an X post or a text, or
way too much, right?
You lose so much nuance with that.
Right.
So I mean, I think maybe have maybe like Justin or Reed or someone reach out to Lombard and maybe do an informal X space, or have him come on the show or something to that effect, where you can, and maybe even have a conversation with him prior to that. So you can kind of, vet some of the nuances out of it.
I don't really have much of a relationship with either one. I've met them in person, really short, didn't get to spend any time with them. I did spend maybe a half hour on the phone with Gordon. I really enjoyed it. Really interesting guy. He's got a great story. He's been all over the world. He's trucked he's got a great perspective on a lot of things. Lombard is a really interesting guy. I mean, really intelligent. He's killing it on the fitness side. I think that's why I get even more crazy about this nutrition. I don't want to see him go down that road, because if it's not me calling him out, somebody else probably will. And they should. He's really on the wrong track with nutrition. I may reach out to him myself.
Yeah.
If we were going to discuss it, honestly, I wouldn't even trust myself to do it on my own show. I would almost rather have it be like the debate we just saw. Have somebody else have the ability to turn off my mic when I get too crazy.
Well, we could do an X space. I mean, I'll host it or whatever. We could do something like that.
Yeah, maybe we will.
Because you can have thousands of people in these X spaces. I mean, that's not a problem.
Yeah, that would be a good format. And I'm not a co-host or a speaker, or I'd have to be a speaker. But somebody else can turn me off when they want to. If I get just too crazy, like I'm known to get sometimes about this topic. And my goal here, my goal is not to prove him wrong. My goal is to help him understand that he could be helping so many more people. He just doesn't understand how much he doesn't know about nutrition. And I don't mean that to be an insult, because he hasn't done the research, he hasn't done the work, and he's going by the mainstream stuff that's been around forever, and it's all totally proven to be wrong.
Right. And another thing that I think people fall ignorant to is that it's not affecting them right now, right? Because, look, when I was 305, I was never on diabetic medication. I was never on high blood pressure medication, right? So I think, all right, I'm just fat, right? I'm just fat.
Right.
I need to stop eating, right? I just got to shut my mouth. I got to, move a little more. Right. So, you never really, you don't know what you don't know, of course. So, with your help and taking initiative to read all the books that I've read, through you putting out the resources where to go and look and read, I educated myself on this. Now, listen, I am definitely not one. I know how to help someone. I have helped people.
Right.
I haven't taken my own advice in the last 6 months. I've had a lot of things going on, and you know what? I know what I am, but I mean, I'm not.
But you also
not nowhere near what I was.
You also see the results.
What's that?
You've proven it's worked both times.
100%.
It works when it makes you better, and when you stop
times.
doing it, you get worse. And we've all been through that, and we know. Well, let's be really honest here.
Yes.
You've listened to the show long enough. At some point, I'm sure you heard me make the statement. I used to talk about money and weight the same way. I'd go, look, money's really simple. Spend less money than you earn, and you can be financially successful. Let's just make it that simple. And then I would follow it and say, and you could lose weight if you would just consume less calories than you burn. I used to say this. I was completely wrong, and I had to admit I was wrong about a lot. That's why when I decided to go down the health road, and I've told this story 1,000 times, it took a year for me to get on board, and Kim pushed me, and I said, I am going to go learn the real truth before I ever talk about this. And, a couple hundred books and a couple courses and dozens of podcasts and interviews with doctors, and I'm pretty sure I know this stuff now. And I was very, very
Yeah.
wrong at one time too. And that's where I see Lombard being now. He really gets the fitness part of it. I did too. I used to own a gym. I wrestled. I know a lot of that stuff. I was a competitive,
Right.
almost a competitive bodybuilder. I never did compete, but I got close once. I have competed in powerlifting. So I get it. And because I knew fitness, then I thought I knew how to tell people how to eat too. And I was completely wrong. And that's where I see he is now. And I
Right,
don't
but
want
even
him to be wrong.
Look at the journey. Even look at the journey that you've been through with when we did keto and then NDK, and then we were
Absolutely.
talking about vegetables, and then all of a sudden carnivore came up. Like even through this process, it was a learning curve.
Still is.
To an extent.
Still is to
It
this
still is,
day.
right. Yeah,
Right.
so-
I'm still bringing on guests and saying, this is a different point of view and we have new information. We have to rethink this stuff. But here's the one constant.
Right.
And this is kind of why I took this approach on both of these products that he put up. We don't have to talk about keto or carnivore. You shouldn't eat vegetables. I can stay away from all that stuff. I can make the absolute statement that human beings thrive on real food, any real food.
Yeah.
But none of this stuff is even close to being real food.
Correct. And I still have those struggles with family members. Like, I'm telling you, just eat real food, and they'll just, of course, ignore me with their with a half a table full of medication.
Exactly.
Which, by the way, has never been tested together. Another rabbit hole to go down, right?
Oh,
I mean, so.
Right. No two drugs are ever tested together, ever.
Correct. Yeah. So, and then you have people like our buddy, the advocate, say, I don't think that's correct, Fred. And I'm like, no, it is. It's 100% correct. I dare you to go out and do the research, because he's good at researching the things he likes. And show me a study. Show me a study where you see from the pharmaceutical companies or any company that's done even a test between two of the diabetic drugs.
Hey, Fred.
Together.
Fred, here's
something that's supposed to work together.
Here's a perfect real-time example of my conundrum right now. And I'm about to just bow out of this whole conversation and just stop. So the last thing I put, one of the things they said was, well, everybody's different. Everybody's system is different. No, it's not. It is 99.9% exactly the same. I used to talk about bio-individuality in the beginning of this. And lately I've said, look, that's not that much of a thing anymore. It's really not. We've proven it's not. But I can make this statement.
Yep.
No human being can thrive on ultra-processed food. I will stand by that statement 100%. You're never going to convince me different. So I said, my only real argument is here. I don't want to go down the road of carnivore's better, keto's better, vegan's better. I don't even want to go down that road. My only statement will be, a human cannot thrive on ultra-processed food, and both drinks I called out are ultra-processed and loaded with chemicals. They're not even close to real food. And I said, real food has worked for 100,000 years. Here's his response. He just posted it. And for 100,000 years, people's lifestyles have drastically changed. In the last 50, since the explosion of the automobile and how our society functions. By that logic, we should operate off the same supply chain we did 100,000 years ago. I can't even work with that logic.
Wow.
Come on.
Wow.
The supply chain is not a human body.
Yeah, so
Come on. So I think I'm better off to just bow out of this one. I don't think it's worth it. I don't think it's worth the argument. It's just not.
He does have a lot of influence.
He does,
and
he's doing some good things, but
get a little bit more education.
Yeah.
You know what I would do? I would give him 3 books, because he's a smart guy. Give him 3 books, pick out 3 good books that he would be able to dive into, like something like Axes Eat Dirt or Perlmutter's Grain Brain or Wheat Belly or something. Something that or even more, maybe more like the Carnivore Code or something to that effect.
Well, here's
And,
one of the things he's done, and I respect him because he's read some books. He's done some work. He keeps telling me, you have to read the book Outlive. I already have. I followed Peter Attia for years. Peter is one of the really early keto guys. He's moved away from hardcore keto. He still believes in high-fat ketogenic diets. He just wants you to add more carbs back in, more fruits and vegetables. Look, the entire functional community still argues about that one. I'm okay with that. I have come to the conclusion.
We can also go back to Dr. Atkins.
Absolutely.
With a ketogenic diet,
right.
Then he used to say, add carbs when you get to your minimum weight. And then when you start gaining weight, then that's your diet.
Right. I'm fine with that. And somehow he wants to use that book as though I'm wrong. There's nothing in that book that would claim I'm wrong about this. Peter Attia does not promote ultra-processed foods. He doesn't promote getting your protein from ultra-filtered milk. So the one book that he has read, and he keeps saying you need to read it. I already read it. And I've followed, he was one of the really, really early guys I studied a lot in the beginning. And we've all kind of come to this conclusion. And I will say this, you want to do the fastest healing of your metabolism possible, nothing beats high-fat carnivore, nothing. Once you heal your metabolism, then if you want to add some carbs back in, it seems like most people can do that and remain pretty healthy. But in the beginning, we've tried it.
Yeah.
Lots of people can go low carb, but if they keep all these ultra processed foods in their diet, they don't heal.
Yep. I agree. Listen, to get back to what you and Matt were talking about with RFK.
Yeah.
Put him in charge of the FDA, the EPA, and the CDC. All three agencies. Just let him head all three agencies, and fix it.
That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea. That's a pretty good place for him. Yeah, I like that idea.
He's smart enough. He's smart enough. He definitely has the wherewithal and the determination to do that.
Yeah, I like that idea. All right. Hey, I don't know how we did it, but we already went over a half hour today.
I got to get on the show more and a little earlier.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And we'll think about bringing the pit back. If I can figure out a way to make it work. Maybe it'll only be a space.
Okay.
We'll see.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and it'll still go out over. That's one of the two reasons I'm not doing spaces right now. I get a lot of questions about it. One is just technology. I had to really hack a lot of stuff to get that to work over our app. I don't want to do a space that the rest of the tribe can't hear. You know, I don't want to tell people, look, if you want to hear that show, you have to go to X. I never want to do that. That's why I worked really hard to get it to work on our app to work with Spaces. Spaces is being developed and the changes keep coming. And every time they make a change, I got to go back and spend hours to try to figure out how to hack it again. So I'm waiting until they settle down a little bit. We get our app done, so I'm not dealing with that on my end. And I do want to go back and do Spaces as long as everybody can hear it when I'm doing it.
Right. Or we can do a recorded space, and we can somehow upload it without help onto
that is a possibility
onto the
too.
app or something like that.
Yeah, we can do that. So I may be back doing Spaces, and I would like kind of a theme. And maybe it just is politics, since we don't do that on the show.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you got my number. Reach out to me, and we'll definitely put it together.
Sounds good. All right.
All right. Have a great day. Good talking to you.
I'm going to end this.
Everybody out there, be safe.
Good to hear from you again. Don't be such a stranger. All right. We are going to wrap this up. Before we do, I have got an awesome special to talk about. You know, if I had to rate holidays, I'm not really big on holidays. Let's just say that. I think we've overdone them. They're too commercialized. Then we decided holidays weren't enough, so we have to have this day and this month, and we're going to celebrate this all month. And I'm just kind of over all of the holiday things. But if I had to pick one that is still near and dear to my heart, it's the holiday this week. And it's not just about fireworks and drinking beer. We're supposed to remember why we use fireworks. It's not because they're loud and fun and men like to blow things up. It's because of what this holiday represents. This holiday represents the freedom of our country. And I can't think of anything more important right now and more at risk than our freedoms. This country is not nearly as free as it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago. Certainly nowhere close to where we were on freedoms 100 years ago. The government keeps taking away more and more freedoms, and they keep restricting more and more things, and they try to control us more and more. And I hate that trend. So the 4th, for me, is kind of an important holiday. And I don't blow up a lot of stuff to celebrate it. And I just, the why the 4th is a holiday is important to me. So having said that, I'm excited that we're doing a holiday sale, because now we have to bring it back to capitalism and how we make money. We make money when you buy stuff from us. I just did a 3.5-hour show today. We don't charge for this. I do 15 to 20 hours a week. We don't charge for any of that. We charge a very, very tiny amount for our website that has tons of information. We have to make money somewhere. We make it on selling you things. We don't really do sponsorships. We don't do commercials. Nobody likes commercials. I don't like commercials. So I like our model, and we depend on you to support us for our model, and it works. You guys have been awesome. So we have a great, great sale. Head over to the store. I was just talking about the fact that I called somebody out for promoting 2 products online. I have no idea whether they get paid to promote those products or not. I don't care. It's not an issue to me. If they get paid, I'm all right with that. That's the free market. I call it out not because somebody's getting paid. I called it out because it's really, really bad advice. And I will continue to do that. Here's the antidote to that. I have done the work. I do know what kind of food is healthy for a human being. I know what food is easy and convenient for truck drivers. We don't take money to do commercials about this food. We take the risk ourselves. We buy it and put it in our store. If it doesn't sell, I lose. So we take all the risk on this. But we have food. I will stand behind every food product in our store. Now, should you be eating all of the stuff in our store all the time? Oh, hell no. You could get yourself in a lot of trouble. We have some snacks that are higher in carbs. They are real treats, and if you're healthy, you can enjoy those treats. I'm sure you've heard me tell somebody, please don't buy monkey brittle with the shape you're in right now. I have told people not to buy our stuff because it's not optimally healthy for them. But when it makes sense, I will say we have one of the best supplies of good, healthy food that works for truck drivers anywhere. And right now, it is 15% off everything as far as food and snacks and that kind of stuff in the store. I don't know all the details, but head on over there and figure it out. 15% off. Stock up. All of the stuff is shelf stable. You can buy as much of it as you want. That is one of our criteria. Food in our store has to be shelf stable or it's not good for truck drivers. So we worked hard to find all these products. We've taken the risk. We put them in our store. All I ask is you go buy some. All right. I got to get out of here. We're way over time. Angie's probably going to ask for overtime pay now, and she deserves it. All right. schedule this week. I'll give you that before I leave too. Tomorrow and Wednesday, and then we're done for the week. No show on Thursday and Friday. I want to celebrate our freedoms as much as I can. And then we'll see you back here next week. So tomorrow, Power Hour, Wednesday, Destination Health, and I believe, oh no, I don't think I have any guests on. I don't think I do. I have some coming up later, but I don't think I have any this week. So, and also no coaching call this week as well. We will see you back here tomorrow. Be safe, be profitable, be fit and healthy. Always do the hard work and master the journey.